and see what's going on when it actually goes live over here. And I see a couple were waiting. So we are live. We're getting set up. And you want to go by Patrick, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Did I get that right? Oh, yeah. See it right there. I wasn't looking at the screen. I'm kind of bad that way. It should show up on YouTube. There it goes. There we go. Okay. Now I just change. I have to go in and turn everything off, but I like to be able to see. Oh, I get to give away memberships now too. Sweet. All right. There we go. All right. We got 6 people on already. And we're just getting started, folks. So pop in, say hi, tell us where you're from. Don't be shy. And let me there we go. All right. Comments are live. And if you didn't figure it out already, we got Patrick, Vicious USMC. How did I get that wrong? On with us today. So Crash and Kev. I don't know if this kind of a interesting nick to have, Crash and Kev. Are you saying you're prone to crashing, like don't go riding with you, or what? I don't know. Can you see? So Patrick, can you see those? One of the things I will say about these lives with the Streamlab is that you can usually, I think, see in the comment section on StreamYard, but you won't be able to reply. It's something about the way you reply through there. So like if it's on your channel, it's fine. But if it's someone on my channel, if you try to reply, they may not see it because they're actually on my channel.
I see it. So StreamYard here, we have Crash Kev, and replying within Streamlabs. He sees it, I'm sure. And I also posted to my channel where it's live right now. But yeah, his comment is not in my channel. So there's a little bit of a disconnect.
Yeah. You just have to pay attention. But yeah, so sometimes what I would do is you join each other's lives. Like I could watch your live and you watch mine on YouTube, and then you could comment that way. So, but I see Crash and Kev wrote, I can sleep anywhere if needed. Okay, that's a better kind of crash. And we're Marines, right? So Marines have learned to be able to do that. At least when I was young. When I was young, I could riding in the back of an LAV, I could take my Kevlar, right, and just jam it into the corner of it like a door jam or something, and then pass out while going down the road.
I've actually done that exact same maneuver. That just gives you just enough leverage to rest your head.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it wasn't like, my wife has sleeping as a superpower. She can literally fall asleep anytime, anywhere. And now that I have so many sleep disorders, I don't never sleep. So
right.
But the secret to falling asleep back then really was we were just always so exhausted.
Hey, there he is, John. No, John, I am not at the cabin, but that's kind of cool. It makes it look like I am, right? So John Davidson's all natural. Jim, I don't know, Patrick, if you've seen his comments. He's another Sawyer, and he and I have known each other for a long time. We've done lots of these lives together, and so good to see you, John. And for everybody else that's joining, we're just getting started. I've got Patrick from the Vicious USMC channel. I don't know why I have a hard time. I think it's because it's Vicious X.
Yes. And first of all, let's just say you're never an ex-Marine, but
no, that's right.
But I put the X in there because, to be fair to all of our service members who are on active duty, I didn't want to put just USMC. That's my way of saying I'm no longer actively in the service. But Vicious Computers is the channel name, and Vicious is what my nickname has been since forever. So that's kind of where it came from.
Gotcha. And yes, there are no former or ex-Marines. So for those that have joined us, I asked Patrick to join us for a couple reasons. One, I think he might actually be an engineer, something I'm not, and I often say. And two, he's done the EcoFlow hack, and I think you said you've also done the Blue Eddy. And I know a lot of viewers have been asking about power station hacks in general. And I had some thoughts I was going to share with you tonight, but I wanted Patrick to come on because I get asked about EcoFlow all the time. And I thought, you know what? He's been playing with that for a while now. and actually knows what he's doing. Unlike me, I just guess and hack things apart and see if they work or not. That's the Marine Corps way. So anyway, so we'll both be on tonight. I think it's going to be fun. And as always, be sure to drop a comment in the chat. Let us know who's out there and where you're from. And if you've got questions, ask them right away, because we will get to them. I always try to get to all questions. So don't be shy, throw them out there. And, you know, there's really no agenda tonight. I usually try to give some channel updates and that kind of stuff when I do a live, but I think tonight it's just going to be a free for all. You ask the questions, we'll just BS. And even if John has a question about how to run a sawmill, you know, I could probably help him out here or there.
Yeah, very dynamic show. By all means, please post up the questions. You have two people here that can answer questions, and while we're very similar, we do have different backgrounds. So you can get the scientific side of it from an engineer like me, and you can get the good old boy from Eric.
So and if you guys have never seen Patrick, he comments a lot on my videos, and so you may have seen his comments actually. Usually pretty good comments. And I will tell you this, we don't always agree, but usually when we don't agree, it's because he knows something I don't. And I have often said that, you know, I am not the expert when it comes like fusing. Truthfully, when I built my off-grid system, fusing was just not something that anybody I knew or talked to or heard from did. We did use breakers, and a fair amount of them, I might add. But we didn't fuse anything. You know, we would run from our solar arrays to a breaker box, you know, usually a combiner box, and then from there to a breaker and to the controller, and then from the controller through a breaker to the batteries, and from the batteries through a breaker to the inverter, which would then go to breakers. And which is really nice because it means that you can shut things off easily.
Yep.
But when it comes to power stations, that's a whole different world. And so I've kind of adopted that hybrid fuse it and breaker it power station setup. And I'm not going to say that I think you absolutely have to. I've personally run stuff, for example, a battery through cables to a solar port without any fusing or breakers or anything else, and done it for literally days and not had an issue. But I've also learned that just because you don't have an issue doing something doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah, correct.
So
you have what we call a fail-safe. In the general operation, something might be functional and fine 99.999% of the time, but that one time that it's not, you want it to fail safe, and that's where your fuses and your breakers and stuff come in. And then there's just that, I wouldn't say we have necessarily an obligation as content creators, but we have to be mindful that people watch us, follow us. And so, yeah, as long as we're smart about being upfront, like, hey, this isn't something that's official, please do so at your own discretion. I actually have a thermal inspection camera, like for this big, the reason I haven't got the Apex 300 hack posted yet is because specifically I was waiting for a day where I had more than 50 amps of solar so I could do a thermal inspection. I'm actually going to take apart the hub D1 that comes with that device and figure out why you can buy the Solar X4K that gives you 4,000 watts of solar, which at about 50 volts is way more than 50 amps.
mm-hmm.
But yet the D1 hub only gives you
like 80 amps.
It gives you a 50 amp Anderson connection. So I showed a video how to build that.
Right.
The video I'm planning on
50 amp Anderson connector for an 80 amp circuit.
Yeah. So why can we not do more than 50? I think it's something inside that hub, or is it artificial restrictions? So I'm going to do a thermal inspection on that, see if something's heating up that shouldn't be. And then that'd be a really cool hack, because go on the Facebook marketplace, find yourself a used MPPT for a fraction of the cost of that Solar X4K and save yourself a ton of money, and potentially even have higher solar income on that too.
No, I think that'd be cool. And so guys, that's why Patrick's here, because, you know, if you want to hear that a little deeper inside how things work and why they work, and you know, how to achieve what you're trying to achieve, that he may have those answers. Now, Pekron, so the first question we have up, which you know, this one is one that I've thought about a lot. So first of all, I can't afford to go out and buy power stations en masse. So that's why a lot of times people will say, have you done this one or have you done that one? Well, no, I don't have that many. I do have had several, but I don't have a Pecron 3600. I thought it used the same cable as the E1500P. Maybe it doesn't, but I will tell you this, to determine if you can do the same thing. We call it a hack. I mean, technically hacking is a computer programming term, but we're hacking the cables up. So, but all you got to do is take a multimeter, voltmeter, and stick it on the ports, find out what voltage it is, and if that voltage is live. And if the voltage is live and it is a standard voltage, then you can do it regardless. Doesn't matter. I don't care whose it is. And this is just my good old Marine Corps mentality. But if you've got voltage, then you can do it, period. You cut their cable open, find your positive and negative, conductors, and put some ring terminals on them and connect them up, or connect it through a breaker. You can do it. Now, I will give you this caveat. I've noticed that All Powers and Jackery do not use the same battery configuration that a lot of companies are using, meaning that most companies today have gone to a 48 volt nominal LiFePO4 battery, which really means it's a 51.2 volt LiFePO4 battery, which is, I believe, 16 3.2 volt cells in series. And if that's a little too much information, bear with me. But Jackery uses a 44.8 volt system, and I think All Powers either uses 44.8 or 48 flat. And what that means is you can't just take, let me rephrase that. You should not just take a 51.2 volt battery and then try to parallel it to a 44.8 volt battery, because it's going to cause you problems. It's not worth doing.
Yep.
Yeah. So the other thing I will say, and to add to what Patrick is saying, I don't put this in my videos, but let's be honest, folks. If I do something crazy like cut a cable apart and make it work with a power station and my own batteries, you have to take responsibility if you do that yourself. Yep. I mean, there has to be a certain amount of responsibility on your own part. And I don't say that in my videos. Maybe I should do that at the beginning of my videos. But I just kind of assume that, look, if you're going to cut something apart, break it open, tear it apart on your own, that you realize if you do something wrong, that's not my fault. And I did have a guy, by the way, that apparently ruined his Opus Mega 1. And he posted 2 or 3 times in comments that it doesn't work and it'll destroy your machine, and blamed everything on me. And I thought, when I asked him questions, because I thought, okay, what did you actually do? Because one of the things that I've noticed is I've had people say, well, hey, can I just do the same thing with a 24 volt battery? And I'd go, no, this is a 51.2 volt battery. You can't parallel a 24 volt to a 51.2 volt battery and get the same results. And so I asked him, what battery voltage did you use? Did you check your positive and negative? It's the simple stuff. Well, he never did come back and answer. And eventually I just sent him on his way. But it is important that if you decide to do that, take responsibility for it. So, all right, there we go. I don't know, Patrick, if you got any thoughts on that before we answer the next one.
Yeah, actually, my brain's already got like 10 things queued up.
All right, go for it.
So, one thing I'll point out, 48 volt nominal would be that one power supply. The others are 52 volt nominal. There used to be a 48 volt nominal for a very short period of time on the market. Then it quickly kind of got replaced with 52 volt.
I'm gonna break in, guys, so you could tell the difference between the engineer and the non-engineer now, right?
But actually, I wanted to maybe go ahead and address our next question on the board here. We got Heath asking about fuses. He's asked us, what fuses do we recommend for an eco-worthy 12.8 280 amp hour battery? So basically, I'm going to break this into 2 small pieces. Your fuse is there to protect your wire. So your fuse size should always be based on your wire size. You want the fuse to fail before the wire can go into a catastrophic failure. Your wire size needs to be based on your maximum load, your current. So unfortunately, we can't give you like a direct answer to that question because we don't have all of that information available to us. But what I'd recommend you do is just go on Google and find like your wire size, ampicity, however you say it, the chart that shows you what size wire you would use for a certain amount of current, and determine, if you don't know already what maximum current you're going to be drawing, then use an amp clamp meter or some other device to measure it. And that will give you your wire size. And then once you have your wire size, you can place the appropriate size fuses on it.
So let me ask you a question, because this is something that I've always been told that you should size your cable to the expected amp draw plus 25%. And I think this is something that you were gonna correct me on, and that you should then size your fuse at your cable rating plus 25%. Do you agree with that or not?
And there's some rough numbers on things. Everything is just kind of like a general safety factor. 20%, I don't remember that number off the top of my head. So I don't want to answer that and answer it incorrectly. But definitely the wire size, there's going to be a safety factor there. And also the wire size is a little extra info. It's not just the gauge of the wire that matters, it's the coating, the sheath that matters.
And the conductor itself, because it could be aluminum versus copper.
Just use copper, everyone.
Yes, just use copper. So I will say this, Heath, it depends on what you're doing. Like, for example, if you're going to feed your eco-worthy solar input port, which, let's say, I don't know, but let's say it's rated at 10 amps, then you just need a cable that can handle that 10 amps, because it's not going to draw more than that 10 amps. So for example, you could easily get away with even 12 gauge cable, and then your fuse should be based on that cable. So if you're using a cable that can handle, say, 20 amps, well, you could put in a 20 or 25 amp fuse, you're going to be perfectly fine. But the key to remember is batteries don't push their amperage, their power, to anything. They're just they're like a bucket of water that's waiting for someone to drink the water out of it. And the power station is going to sip the water out of that bucket through that solar input port if you're using the solar port to draw power from the battery. So you think of your cable that's going from the battery to the EcoFlow or whatever it is you're plugging it into. And I see eco-worthy and my brain goes to EcoFlow on power stations.
I do that a lot.
Yeah. But I mean, so I don't know what you're doing with that battery. And that's what Patrick's trying to say. I mean, you could plug that battery into your RV. You could be using it to build an off-grid cabin. I don't know. But if you're using it to provide extra power to a power station through the solar input port, then think of that cable that's connecting the two together as the straw that power station is going to draw the power, the water out of that bucket with. So there's my crazy jarhead analogy there.
Yep. And you're actually very accurate.
And here's our answer. It was for an EcoFlow, a Delta 2.
Now I'm back to my squirrel brain. Two things queued up. We were mentioning the paralleling of the batteries. Like if someone bought a 24-volt battery and there was a nominal 48-volt battery, you can't parallel them. But do remember that before we started getting into paralleling batteries, which is a little bit more advanced, most of us were just doing the PV inputs, the photovoltaic inputs. And in that case, since the MPPT is in the middle there translating the voltage for you, you don't have to worry about this. So if your only goal is to try to get power to the power station to extend its capacity, I really do recommend that's the way you go. It's just going to be much safer and an easier way to go about it. Yep. The true benefit of the parallel batteries is when you want to start using that power station in the same manner that you would be able to use a battery that you'd buy off the shelf at the store, to try to unlock some of that OEM proprietary stuff that they're locking you out of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, here we go. Wait, no, let's go to this one. Good question on the fuse size. For the bigger batteries, to the 200 BMS on XCNY batteries influence the fuse size. Going to use 2 of the 310 amp hour in series 24 volts with 2 gauge wiring. I will be installing one 150 amp MBRF. So again, and I'm going to answer this before Patrick's brain gets going here, but I'm going to say right off the bat, you have to tell us what you're going to do with it. So the BMS, it really doesn't accept that the 200 amp BMS is saying it will allow 200 amps to be drawn off that battery for a specified amount of time. Typically, the BMS is a continuous draw, and it might be 200 amps continuous and maybe 600 amps for 2 seconds or something like that. And all that is saying that that BMS is only going to allow that much draw off the battery for a given period of time. That doesn't actually have anything to do with your conductor size or fuse size or breaker size unless you intend to draw that much. So for example, when I put batteries together, maybe in series or even perhaps in parallel, though I don't do it in parallel, but that's me personally, but in series, I often say you should use a fuse like a T-class terminal fuse between your batteries. And then, yes, I would use a fuse that matches the BMS, but that's because I don't want to restrict the amount of power I can draw off of that battery when I put 2 in series. But on the other hand, if I connect those 2 batteries in series to a power station solar input port, well, my fuse size is based strictly on the cable size that I'm using to connect those 2 together. And the cable size is based strictly on what I expect that draw to be from that power station. So let me give you a slightly different approach on that. At my cabin, I run from my batteries to an inverter, and the inverter powers everything in my cabin. And it's a 4,000 watt inverter that can peak at 12,000 watts. So I have to cable that for a steady 4,000 watt draw. And that means that any fusing or breakers that I put in have to be rated to handle that draw at the voltage that I'm drawing off those batteries. So I could care less. I have 3 120 amp batteries connected in in parallel, which means I could draw 360 amps off of that at any given time. But 4,000 watts at 25.6 volts equals something else. And I would have to pull a calculator up to give you the amperage that it equals. But all you'd have to do is divide 4,000 by 25.6, and that tells you how many amps I can draw. So again, the battery is a reserve, and the amperage rating of that BMS is just how much it will allow. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to necessarily do that. So fusing isn't really based on that. Hope that makes sense. Okay, go ahead, Patrick. You let him have it with your engineer brain.
I think you got that mostly nailed down. I'm just going to point out, first of all, I think it's really ironic that everything so far is about fuses. I think you've already been like, I don't want to do fuses. but
right. It's okay.
But still, I mean, pretty much the same answer we just gave to Heath is going to apply here. We don't know necessarily what your current is going to be, so we can't tell you what you're going to need for wire size, but your fuse is still going to be based on your wire size. Your fuse is there to protect your wire, so you don't have a fire. And the BMS, Eric had it right. It's just, if you have one battery with a 200 amp BMS, that means that BMS is going to restrict a maximum of 200 amps current on a continuous basis going in or out of that battery. If you hook multiple batteries together in parallel, now you start adding that together. So 2 200 amp batteries in parallel can perform 400 amps of continuous service.
Yeah, 200 each.
Yeah.
So 400. Yeah, absolutely. And you guys, if you want to add more to your question, if you're like, oh, okay, well, this is what I'm doing, feel free to put that in and tell us what it is you're trying to do, because I mean, we're just, that's why we're here. That's the whole point. So we're happy to help you out. All right, here we got another one.
We got a question. All right, go for it.
Storm Central here. Okay, so you must be down there in the southeast somewhere. We used our EcoFlow River 2 Pro with an extra battery, a Redodio 12.8 100 amp hour connected through the XT60 with the third plug getting 165 watts off the battery. But should I use 125 MBRF? Well, so the question I would ask is, what is the amp draw that you get from that EcoFlow? I'm betting it's what's that, 13 amps or something like that. Okay, you guys are going to make me pull a calculator out, aren't you? So 165 divided by 12.8 is 12.89. Boy, am I ever good. So if you're drawing 13 amps, if I'm understanding your question correctly, if you're drawing 13 amps, then you need cable that can handle 13 amps and a fuse to protect that cable, that you don't draw more than 13 amps. So you could run a 15 amp fuse. And now here's something that Patrick can add to here, because I'm not a fuse guy really, but I know that there are fast blow and slow blow fuses, and I've often used the car type AMI type fuses, and I realized I couldn't tell you if those are fast blow or not. So if you were doing this, you'd want a fast blow fuse, right?
I would go fast blow because you want it to fail as fast as possible to
Mhm.
protect the wire, but it also again is determined by the wire. So if you're running that welding wire, for example, that has a ridiculously high rated sheathing on it, a slow blow fuse will be fine.
Mhm.
But just for the fact that you're putting a fuse in there for safety, I think fast blow is the way to go. Because if you're in a failure state, that would be beyond what you're rating that for. You
Mhm.
want it to go. The
Right.
slow glow fuses are more for like a residential setting.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you guys this too. There's nothing says you can't put heavier cable in. So if you're only drawing 13 amps, I'll bet 14 gauge cable, copper cable, probably can handle 14 amps. I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure it can. I know that 10 gauge, depending on the cable, can go anywhere from 25 to even 30 amps.
30. I've done 30 on it all day long.
Yeah, yeah. So but you could use 10. I do it all the time. 10 gauge cable to an XT60 and draw 10 amps over. It's not going to hurt you. And then your fusing should still be based on your cable rating. Now, some people might fuse based on the power station, and I personally would not, simply because it's that MPPT in the power station, that's your solar input port, is programmed to only draw so much, and it's not going to draw any more than that unless it completely fails. So, and there's really nothing. If it completely fails, it completely fails, and generally it will shut down. I mean, I have heard of an actual MPPT charge controller burning up,
Hmm.
and only once in my entire time doing solar have I heard of this. But it was one of my neighbors, and it was an old unit, possibly 30 or 40 years old. I know he put his first system in 1979. So, I mean, could have been a really old one, but it did burn up. And so who knows why, but that's a little different because your system is trying to draw off solar. Who knows what was going on? Something could have shorted out and
Yeah.
started a fire in the unit, because it was, you could have dust in there that tens of years, a couple few decades later, and it could be
Connections getting
tons of
loose.
dust.
Like things happen.
Yeah,
Shit
a
happens.
mouse.
Well, I'll tell you a couple of things that could happen. First of all, the reason we talked about those safety percentages earlier, we were talking about fuses, but when we're talking about MPPTs, we do have to have a safety there as well. Cooler weather creates a higher voltage on your panels.
Yep.
And we have this phenomenon called the solar cloud edge effect, where everything in the universe comes into alignment just right so that your solar panels, instead of sucking for the day and only giving you 75, 80% of what you expect based on the marketing material, you're getting 110%. And that can actually happen. And so that's why with these portable power stations, I'm not as fickle about pushing them closer to the limit, assuming that you're going out there camping, you're running your cabin off the grid for the day, you're tailgating, the weather, you're going to have it hooked up for a short period of time, and you're going to disconnect it. It's those systems where you're putting permanent panels mounted 24/7, 365, that your safeties really start to matter more, because then you're going to be exposing them to so much more random weather patterns. The other thing is, don't take this as a gospel, but I'm going to blow everyone's mind right now. That MPPT that Friday, it could have just been too much voltage because of what we just talked about, the weather or
Could
whatever.
be. Yeah.
Also, older systems, please check them every once in a while. Make sure nothing's loosening up, because loose connections are the number one cause for fires. A loose connection creates a high resistance path for the current, which creates heat.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But
It's actually what made me realize that putting some cement board behind your components was a good idea.
It's right there on the wall. Yeah, this little
Yeah,
system on my wall in here.
yeah,
That
you know, and
this is a
I've done
little,
it, and I've gone without it for 15 years.
yeah. So that little DIY system there is already almost paid for itself in a year. It's pulling like almost half of my electric bill and running my whole
Wow,
office. This whole office is run on solar for the last 6 months now.
awesome.
So, but the other thing I was going to say to blow everyone's mind is, first I want to talk about a saying that everyone's probably heard by now because Eric kind of hinted to it. Voltage is pushed and current is pulled. It's technically not true, but we use that as a way to kind of explain the phenomenon. So your source, whatever it might be, your battery in this case that we were talking about earlier, your battery is going to determine the voltage it's going to go across. But the MPPT is going to determine the current because it's pulling the current. However, everyone assumes that you can over panel an MPPT with as much current as you want, and it will only pull what it needs, and it will always be safe. But that's actually untrue. If you go look at, I think it was maybe one of the very last videos I posted. I think it was the Solar 101 series, which is a class. It's made to teach this stuff from like basics up. The EG4 FlexBoss that I used for the example actually does have on the white papers the maximum current of solar panels that you should have connected to it. So
Yeah,
yes,
and you see that on others. I mean, I've seen that on I will say it's a very good topic, and here's why. Morningstar, Outback, Xantrak, Schneider, I think they all do that, but there's a difference in the way your typical component system is rated than the way your power stations are. And I've noticed this. So for example, my Outback FlexMax 80 is an 80 amp charge controller, and it is rated based on 80 amps of charge current going to the battery bank. And they will tell you what the maximum voltage and the maximum amperage and wattage, for that matter, on each different array, 12, 24 versus 48, or even 60 volts. I think it's weird. It's got another setting in there. But and if you talk to them, which I've also done with Morningstar, they'll say, yeah, you can get away with X percentage of over paneling. But what I've found with power stations is that they are a little different. Like, I've yet to see a power station with a quote unquote 10 amp MPPT charge controller that would that 10 amps was necessarily the charging amps. Because, for example, 10 amps at 48 volts is 40 amps at 12 volts. And if you hook up a 12 volt solar panel to that system, and it's a 48 volt system, it does not draw more than 10 amps. So the 10 amps on the power station is actually what it will draw, not necessarily what it will charge. And it's interesting that they do that. So it makes it it makes it a little confusing, I think, for people when you get into a discussion with something like us, or someone like us who's primarily done the component side of things. And so when I look at an actual charge controller, a separate component, right? Like I did the Victron versus Leadtime and ticked a lot of people off. but those are rated by how much they're going to charge that particular battery bank with. Yep. So if they're 12 volts, it's 30 amps. That's it. That 30 amps is how much it charges.
Victron is like the black sheep. They like to rate their stuff a little bit differently than everyone anyways.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the Victron numbers on their model numbers, like a 100/30, that 30 is the amps that the MPPT can deliver to the battery.
Right. Same as Morningstar, same as Outback, same as Xantrak, which is now Schneider Electric. But power stations are different. So anyway, I will say this: I have over paneled power stations by 100% and gotten away with it. I'm not going to tell you should do that, but I've certainly gotten away with it. And I always try to say, look, you do this at your own risk. But the reason is in my mind, it's no different than plugging in a 5 kilowatt, 51.2 volt battery into a power station with a 10 amp charge controller, because it's drawing 10 amps. But I wouldn't do that with I would not decide to 100% over panel my Morningstar charge controller, that, by the way, I paid as much for as a 2 kilowatt power station is, right? You know, you buy a 2000 watt hour power station for $750, maybe, you know, if it's on sale, right? Well, that's what that Morningstar charge controller costs. That's why a lot of people use power stations for, you know, an off-grid system in a box to start out, I think, because you can get them so cheaply. But the problem is power stations have so little solar. And in fact, I think that's why that Opus Mega 1 is so popular, is because you got a 1 kilowatt power station with an 800 watt solar input port. But okay.
That's why I like the EcoFlows. I mean, that's what started me on this journey. The Delta 3s, 500 watt solar, 2 ports, so 1000 watts of power through the solar is pretty awesome. And then they added the 15 millisecond or 20 millisecond UPS mode. So I literally just replaced my UPSs in my office and saved money up front, because my UPS batteries had to get replaced every few years, and these power stations using lithium phosphorus batteries last so much longer and have better capacities. So it just made sense. And then I was like, hey, I got these new power stations as UPSs. Why don't I throw some solar on them? And then the addiction begins from there.
Exactly.
Once you start saving money and getting a return on investment, you just don't stop.
Right. So here's a question, Douglas Hickman. So first of all, Douglas, I saw that and I went your email? Huh? What? Okay, let me look at this. Hi, Patrick. I sent you an email, no answer, but Eric wants my email, but I can't figure out how to email him. I want a gift from you. Hillsboro NG Power is out now. Okay, so if you sent me an email for the stickers that I said I would send out, I probably have it. I'm sometimes kind of bad about that. So give me a minute here, because I have one I have to resend out. My email is actually really easy. So if I didn't get one from you, and I will look, let me see what it was. Douglas Hickman. I don't recall
might be in my
seeing that
spam too. I'm checking right now.
So I'll tell you this, Douglas, my emails are really, really easy. You just email I'm going to type it in here too, the old jarhead at manlyportablemilling.com. Bingo. There, I just posted it in the chat too. The old jarhead at manlyportablemilling.com. All one word, but the .com. And I will absolutely do that. So I know I got a couple emails, and I was so busy with a couple other things going on that I didn't get back to them. So if I didn't get back to you, I apologize. But I will. In fact, I'm going to do a search right now. Everybody, hang with me here. Let me go here. Search all, and we're going to go. I'm going to try Hickman and see if I've got your email in here somewhere. It says it's got to search 667 records. So I have thousands of emails, no excuses, but we will find you. And again, if you didn't find my email, email me at theoldjarhead at manlyportablemilling.com. And actually, I'd have to look at the other one. I don't think the other one would work, but first of all, wow, Heath, good. Thanks, man. Heath. Yeah, absolutely. And that one looks like that one went to you, Patrick. So awesome.
What? Oh, I didn't realize that couldn't be done. Okay, cool.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Usually I can tell in your own views, you could tell. That's the only place you can tell.
Oh, I do have that hidden away on another tab. I was just pulling up those FlexBoss white papers I was talking about, because it has those specs I was talking about. And I actually found the email from Douglas Hickman as well. And I just looked it over. This is a lot to cover. We'll have to go back and forth offline a little bit on this one. I'll have to get more information.
And I didn't find it. So I just looked and I thought oh, wait, there it is. So Douglas, you won. Let me see. Did you win? No. Let me see. Let me pull this email up. We did share so the only email I have from you was way back when I was giving away the Cyclone battery. So that's the last email I got from you, buddy. But you should have my email. Okay. All right. So good deal. Let's keep going. Let's see. Oh, and here you are, folks. If you didn't see it, the old jarhead at manlyportablemilling.com. And Patrick posted his as well.
Yeah.
All right. And there's Electrobuzz. He's got his sticker. I sometimes give those away. If you guys are wondering what those are about, the truth is, sometimes you see advertising and you wonder if it's really any good or not. And I was going to be a YouTuber for Lee Time at a display they were doing, but I bought these, and I bought like 100 of them for, I don't know, maybe $30 or something and I saw the ad on Facebook, believe it or not, and they're really nice stickers. So I gave away probably at least 50 or 60 at the Overland Expo, which was really funny. So for those of you that don't know, Overland Expo is this huge show where anybody and everybody that likes to, have usually an all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive vehicle with and they camp out of it, where the main mission is to drive somewhere, maybe spend the night and then continue to drive. And it's more about the driving and getting places than it is the camping, though the camping's a huge part of that. And a lot of these companies that do off-grid power also get involved in that kind of stuff, because that's where a lot of the DC to DC chargers that a lot of folks are using now, that's kind of that overland world where that stuff really became popular. Even that latest battery that I showed in my last video about lead versus LiPo 4s, that's the first time I saw that was at the Overland Expo, and I went, I'd like one of those in my Jeep. So that's pretty common. Anyway, I had those, and so I've been kind of slowly giving them out to folks, members. I gave an opportunity for members to get them, and so anyway, there you go.
Oh, it flips me. Interesting.
But okay, all right. So huge. So that's pretty awesome, buddy. Trying to absorb, absolutely. Oh, in front of a campfire today. Oh, that's right. Are you the one that said you had the power out, or no? That was Douglas. Douglas said he had the power out. I'd like to be sitting in front of a campfire right now. That'd be awesome.
There's nothing better than
speaking of memberships, let's see here. I thought I couldn't give any more away, but it looks like I can. So guess what, folks? I am going to toss out 5 more. So, and for those that get the memberships, usually what I try to do is get videos out at least 24 hours in advance. I'm going to be honest, sometimes those videos are kicking my butt. And DaVinci Resolve, which is a software I use to do my editing, they've made some changes recently which have caused me fits. And I'm usually very, very fast at getting editing done. And like they say 1 hour of editing per minute of video, I probably could do it in half that time usually, or less. But my last my Jackery video, that I put in at least 16 hours of editing. And the truth of the matter is, and it's a 15-minute video, and the truth of the matter is I was having so much trouble with DaVinci Resolve that I had to re-render that video probably a dozen times, because every time I'd render it, it would do something weird. And like when there was a screen change or something, the screen would go all blurry, for like 10 or 15 seconds or something. And I hate that, right? I mean, there's no excuse for that. So I would try to change something to see if I could fix it. Oh, it was just terrible. So anyway, lately, what I'm saying is my videos haven't always gone out 24 hours in advance. So sorry. I usually try to get them out sooner if possible. Tuesdays is usually out by 3 p.m. on Monday. And then Saturdays, I usually try to have out at least by Thursday. And then there's a whole bunch of videos that don't go out. Sometimes I'll publish a video that is going to come out to members only in an early edited form. So you'll get to see it before I cut it down in size. Sometimes, like with the Jackery video, I don't know if I released that one or not, but a lot of times I'll release them. It's 30 minutes long, and the video ends up being 15 minutes, which is simply a function of YouTube.
Yeah.
In fact, I usually do videos in the 8 to 12 minute range. And honestly, it's the TikTok mentality. In fact, Patrick and I were talking about this before we went live, and that YouTube Shorts, Instagram, TikTok world has actually really hurt in my opinion anyway, long form creators a little bit, because the people that watch shorts mostly generally only watch 15 to 30 seconds worth of a long form video, which tells the algorithm don't share it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and I told Patrick, I don't use that word too often anymore, but there is that case when I do. And so that actually can prevent a video from going out a lot more. But if you make the video 10 minutes, then those that only watch for a shorter duration don't hurt the video, and it can go out to more people.
Yep.
So a lot of times I will release a video that's, 16, 20, 30 minutes long to members only. And then I'll finally cut it down. And what's really funny about that is that video might do very, very well because I made a 10-minute video, but I may have cut out 10 minutes of me explaining something that some people say, well, if you'd only explained this.
Exactly.
And the funny thing is, I really did. It's just that I had to take it out.
Yeah. And that's just it. I'm a long form content creator. I used to work for Notebook Review way back in the day, one of the written form editors, because everything was written back in the day. You bought magazines, you went on websites, you went on bulletin boards, and you read everything you wanted to know. When video transitioned, I made that transition with video. I'm an awkward, antisocial person, believe it or not. So getting into video was very difficult for me. I hate being on camera. And so I made that change, but I still kept doing things the same way I always did. Very in-depth, very detailed coverage. That's what I want. That's what I want myself. So that's what I give to others. Now we're doing solar stuff here. If you're going to spend your money and you're going to build a system that's going to last you 30 years, then I hope you're willing to watch 30 minutes of content to learn how to do it right. I feel like I'm doing a disservice if I do a short video just for the clicks and the views, because my mission is not monetary. It's just sharing knowledge. So, I mean, I'll be completely transparent. My channel might look kind of big, but it's not. It's most of my subscribers are from when I was younger and I had more free time, and they're all old subscribers. And so my viewership is not very good. I'm getting hundreds of views on a video that takes me days to make, but I'm still doing it because I care about what I'm doing. Right. And so therefore the long form content, whether or not people want to watch it, it's there for the people who need it. And that's what I'm producing.
Yeah. And that's actually, and so you guys, you're getting the inside scoop here, but that's actually, it's a good point, and it's a challenge. It's something that Patrick and I were talking about earlier. And by the way, my audience is old too, only they're all old like me.
Yeah, I'm old because I changed my content because I cover smart home stuff, automation, IT stuff, and now I'm doing solar. Basically, my channel is, what is Patrick doing right now? I find, since I love teaching, my saying is, there's no better way to learn than to teach.
That's true. That's true. I love teaching too. But yeah, I mean, it is a challenge. I do it. We do this for the same reason. And I sometimes think that's part of being a Marine too, is instructing. Right. Marines don't expect you to know everything. They expect to, you know what you know, but what you don't know, you got to learn. And so if a Marine knows it, then they usually are willing to teach it because they want fellow Marines, in the case of Marines, to know how to do it. Right. I mean, you can't expect everybody to come out of boot camp knowing it all. And although they might think they do, but so, I mean, that's the challenge of YouTube is simply that you want to try to teach. And so I'm an oversharer by a long shot, and I'm not shy. So it was kind of weird learning how to sit in front of a camera and talk to a camera. I'll admit that. But otherwise, I can, as anybody who's watched my lives know, I could go on for 2 hours, but nobody's going to watch me talk about solar power for 2 hours. So it's a delicate balance. And I'm finding that it's almost better in terms of getting the word out to do shorter videos, the 8 to 10 minutes, 12 minutes, maybe length, about a topic, and try to narrow the topic down, and then do another video about another aspect of it. And one of the things that I need to do that I've been thinking about lately is create more playlists, so a battery playlist, a hacking power station playlist. So by the way, folks, if you're just joining us or you're just hanging out, don't forget to ask questions, because that's what we're here for. Yep. So we will absolutely ask questions. You got me, the old Jarhead, and Patrick, which is ViciousXUSMC. Yes, we're both Marines. Obviously no longer serving, because I couldn't have that even if I could serve, and I'm too broken to do it anyway. And obviously Patrick's a little bit out of regs on his high and tight. So
I had the ugliest bald head you can imagine.
Bad, you know. But electric buzz, you know, campfire. I've actually talked about doing that with some other guys that ran sawmills when I was doing sawmilling stuff all the time, which I will do more of, by the way. But you know, I've got Starlink, which I can do a live at my cabin, and I keep saying I'm going to do it, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. You're going to have to work on me to get me to do a live at the cabin, because here's the deal: when I'm up at the cabin, if the weather's just right and I'm sitting in front of my wood stove reading, sorry, having a drink. I don't drink that much, so trust me. But there's just something about sitting there in front of the wood stove, reading a book, having a drink, just relaxing. It makes it hard to decide to turn the camera on. So I've talked
1000% feel
about
you.
doing it. What's that?
1000% feel you there. I mean, there's not many times you can check out and decompress. And
Yeah.
a good campfire, or for me, I also don't drink very much. Me and my wife both have almost completely quit drinking. Something I used to love to do with my Marine buddies is they got me into the old school tobacco pipe. So sitting around a campfire and enjoying an old school tobacco pipe was the most relaxing thing ever.
I tried tobacco. See what you guys are getting. You're not just getting how to hack a power station. You're getting talk about tobacco pipes. I tried a pipe when I was in the Marine Corps because I always thought they smelled really cool and they looked cool. And I tried one and it burned my mouth. And I noticed that when I was doing the pipe, I couldn't smell the tobacco anymore. And I thought, well, this is dumb.
It's definitely an acquired skill that requires a little bit of investment.
Right, investment in time. So what questions have you guys got? Let's see, what time? Man, we've only been going for 45 minutes, and I've been known to go 2 hours without even trying hard. So absolutely, folks, get your questions out there because we're going to answer them. And
we do have one new question there if you want to read it.
All right, I have two. This is DRWJ Brown, Dr. WJ Brown, doctor of. Let's see. I have two Pecron 3600 connected for 240 watts. Good Lord. You mean 240 volts probably. Is there an advantage to connecting the main units in parallel in addition to connecting expansion batteries? I have two expansion batteries on each unit. Okay, so I'm a little confused because you say I have two Pecron 3600s connected for 240 watts, but I think you mean volts. Is there an advantage to connecting the main units in parallel? Well, there is an advantage, I suppose, but I don't. Does the Pecron 3600 have both the parallel connector and the expansion battery like a lot of them do? For example, my Jackery does. And yes, there is an advantage to that in that each inverter can then provide power to, you know, they can draw power off that main battery from either side, essentially, right? So it basically doubles your inverter output, and it can draw from either side. So you're paralleling those internal batteries. I mean, I don't see any disadvantage. Let me put it this way: I don't see any disadvantages to doing it.
I'm going to ask a qualifying question. I think when he says 240 watts, do you mean two inverters in parallel for 240 volt split phase? Is that what you meant? And I know there's a delay in the stream, so we better keep talking before we actually get that answer.
Yeah, we can't let the stream go quiet.
So
where's John Davidson? Are you still out there, John? Because I used to always tell him when we were doing the round table that I used to do with those guys is you can never let things go quiet and stop talking when you're doing a live.
And in fact,
keep it going.
And if that is the case, and I'm not an expert and I don't own any Pecrons, but based on my knowledge of other units that work in similar ways where you hook two power stations together and usually you're buying an external hub of some sort that will combine them together so you can get split phase 240. In that situation, each inverter is going to power one leg each, and they also only have access to their own batteries that are connected. So they won't be able to share batteries across because they're actually running independently, just out of phase.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that sucker up. Oh, yeah. So it has a 2 times E3600 LFP plus 240 volt box equals 7,200 watts, 240 volt output. So it's basically taking that 3600, it's combining the two inverters to a 7200 watt 240 volt output.
Yeah, and I can. Oh, I think I have it here on my screen too. Let's see. So I have it pulled up here. So I see this little hub. It's probably small, but the little hub there that combines these together. So
yeah, you know who's done? I'm going to tell you who's done this. Who's talked about this. So this will show you guys. I'm not about hiding or not. You know, I don't compete with anybody on YouTube. Let me put it that way. If you go to the Solar Lab, if you haven't checked them out, check them out, because one of the things they do is they do test those pretty well. And I know they've been talking about the Pecron, that little Pecron combiner box on there. There was a video they did where I think they really liked it. And then there was another video that I'm not sure. So I don't watch everything they put out, but I will tell you, I do watch some of their stuff. You know, I get a kick out of his tiny baby lift test or whatever, you know, but yeah, I mean, go to the Solar Lab and check it out, because they do have it there. So if you're looking for an answer on that one, I don't have the 3600, so I can't answer you really, other than from what I understand. But you can check them out there. Absolutely. So, and don't worry, you can ask any question. I may not have the answer, but I'll try to point you to the right place, though.
Yeah,
that's another Marine trait, by the way.
Yep.
You never go up to a Marine Corps promotion board without having at least one answer in your back pocket, which is the either I don't know the answer to that question, but I will find out and let you know, or I don't have the answer to that question, but I know where to get it.
Yeah, and that's a Marine trait, and I've also learned that time and time again through great customer service skills through the other careers I've had in the industry, just owning a problem and taking care of people.
So. Patrick, this one is for you. Patrick, I have almost your same setup with the Victron 15035 and Phoenix 24 volt 1200. I want my Pioneer AC to run off this with 2 batteries, 24 volt. My issue is the ground from the main home panel, question marks.
Okay. I'll see if I can give you an answer on that. So Douglas, my system, the way it's configured, was a DIY dream where there was no permits to pull, there was no interconnecting to the grid, I never touched my main panel. It was specifically designed and engineered in a way that everyone on YouTube could do this easily and safely and cheaply. Because the moment you need to start bringing in engineering, permits, electrician, your cost is going to shoot through the roof, and then your return on investment is going to be harder to reach. And so it doesn't make sense with a small system to do that, in my opinion. So these are all running as what I would call, from IT, an edge system. They're plugged into the wall so they can charge from the grid if necessary, but they are getting all of their power now from solar. The grid is strictly a backup, and it's called DC coupled. The grid power never touches any of the other power that these produce. They use the battery as the coupling mechanism, and that's why it's safe, and that's why it's code compliant. In doing that, it never actually touches the house ground or the AC side of the house at all, period. And this week, as I get my FlexBoss 21 installed and do the grid interconnect and do all that stuff, that's when I'll have to worry about actually getting the right grounding and all that. And to be honest with you, even though I know electrical and I do know residential electrical, I'm paying someone else to do
it. That's just keep you out of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. I live in an HOA. I'm very restricted in what I can and can't do. I have to do everything on the down low, and this is going to be interconnected with the local power company, and it's going to go on the roof where I can't hide it. So I had to pay people to do it the right way. And sadly, just because professionals are professionals doesn't mean they know jack.
It's true.
Because the company that I paid to do this for me, they hired an actual solar engineering company, not just an engineering company like for general purpose. I mean, solar engineering. The first set of plans they sent me were absolute garbage. I literally laughed out loud. I was like, are you kidding me? This is what you're proposing for solar? I would love to do that. I should cover that on a video of my own, but basically
you should.
East-West is what I have to go with. East-West solar array. So I'm going to never have both sides of the house equally energized except for solar noon. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to have 3 strings of panels is what they were proposing, with one of those 3 strings actually going across the peak of the house in series.
Oh, really?
In series, not parallel.
In series?
Yeah.
What?
So I'm like, a solar engineer company is going to tell me to run east-west.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
It won't work well. Only time it'll work is solar noon.
I will tell you what you've done with your system is exactly what I'm going to be doing in my shop, where I'm going to draw an 80 amp. I'm going to have an 80 amp circuit come off of my panel in my shop and go to my all-in-one system just for battery charging only. And then I'm going to pull the circuits for like my lights, small appliances, that kind of stuff out of that main sub panel or main panel for the shop, and run it into a sub panel that's fed by the all-in-one. So it'll never actually backfeed into the grid. It won't be able to, because it's the only place I'm getting anything from is literally off that 80 amp circuit for charging only. Go ahead. Go ahead. Well, I was thinking, and I may even decide to not even pull that 80 amps. I may just say to heck with it and run it off of a 20 amp circuit. And the reason for that is that, and it would have to be a non-GFCI, I might add, but the reason for that is I just don't need that much battery charging, because I'm not living off that system, and it'll have all the time in the world overnight to charge the batteries back up when they get to that point, or longer. So, I could get away with it. And I've often debated it, whether I really need a permit or not for it, because I would if I'm going to pull an 80 amp circuit, I think, out of the main box. But pulling circuits out of that box and running them elsewhere isn't any different, frankly, than plugging them in the wall. So I think I can get away with it. Of course, the panels, on the other hand, maybe it'll become a little more obvious when they're sitting over my lawn tractor, but yeah, I think you can get away with it. Anyway, what else you guys got? We're just babbling on here, having a good time. He says he learned a lot from Solar Lab. Yeah.
I got some mad science stuff. I am not recommending anyone do this, but we're talking about it. As I was designing this system and I was coming up with all the crazy solutions that I could come up with to do a DIY system. Now that we have, is it Utah that's now legalized what we would call backfeeding solar products, like the balcony systems. They're now legal in Utah.
I didn't know that.
So I'm sure that might eventually slowly spread. But here, where I live in Florida, you can't legally plug in something. It reminds me very closely to what people do with generators. This time of the year, you'll see the signs where it says, if you ask about this double-sided male cable, it doesn't exist. We don't make them. They're illegal. They're dangerous.
But here it is. Plug it in your house.
But that's what people were doing. They're making those so they can backfeed their generators through the house. And while technically not code, if you know what you're doing and you don't make any mistakes, it can be done.
It can also kill somebody if you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. So you have to be. So I was
Although, folks, for those that don't know, during a massive outage, like a hurricane or something, where the grid is completely down, yeah, you can do that with a generator. And in communications, we've actually had to do that during disasters, where sometimes the only answer is to take a generator with a double-sided plug and plug it into an outlet that is going to backfeed all around that facility that you're in, a house or whatever, and provide charge at all the other outlets so that you can run whatever it is you need to run. But when you do that, you need to disconnect that building from the grid.
Yes,
usually
absolutely.
You have a manual switch to do that. Completely
absolutely must be done. Now the line workers are trained to handle that situation safely, but never put them in risk and put yourself at risk, because you might cause a fire in your home or who knows what could happen. But that was just a precursor to the next step. So think about that backfeeding of a generator and think about how we're using these power stations as a DC coupled system. If you know a regular standard outlet with 2 plugs, if you pull that out of the wall, there's actually a place where you can cut that connection to separate your top and bottom outlets.
Did you see what Dane is another Marine, I might add.
I can
see what
assume,
he posted.
Yeah. So just riddle me this. If you think like I do with an engineer brain, if you were to take an outlet, take your very first outlet that's running off of your main panel. So you have to figure out what your very first outlet is that's going to go down the line. And you separate that plug in half so that the top plug goes to the panel. The bottom plug now goes downstream to the rest of the outlets. You could technically plug in one of these power stations and into the top plug, and it would charge off of your AC power from the grid, but still be DC coupled and backfeed the rest of that circuit in the house without actually ever touching the panel.
Yeah.
I bet you an
Folks,
electrician
if
would
you
lose
try
their
any
mind.
of this, on your own at your home, do so at your own risk.
Yes.
It's
So
not my
this,
fault.
I mean, I would never do this unless I labeled it and told my wife what was going on, and I had a necessity of doing it. Obviously, I'm doing the whole home setup and I'm doing it the right way. But this was just mad science. Like, this is what I love to do: create solutions, come up with weird things that you can do that work. But you have to
Trust
be,
me.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what Dane put down there. So for those that didn't hear me earlier, Dane's another Marine. And yes, Marines are trained to do some crazy things, or at least we train ourselves to. Electric buzz, that's what we had to do after Helene. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I will tell you this. I've noticed Hurricane Helene, I think, sadly, but I think it woke a lot of people up, not only in that area, but throughout there. So, and it's something that I've been thinking about talking about on a video here soon. And that is that our power grid is not in great shape, and it's getting overtaxed more and more and more. Right now, a lot of AI type data centers,
Oh, Jesus.
big company data centers are just sucking power like you wouldn't believe. And then
There's a whole
you've
video.
got there is. And then you got all these folks out there, politicians, telling you to go out and buy an electric car. And thankfully, guys like Musk are saying, yeah, we don't have the grid for this. He's making the cars because, hey, I'm a capitalist too. If you're willing to buy them, hey, go for it. But the reality is our grid is not that great. And unless you live where I live, and I happen to live basically on the Columbia River, which is dammed up from head to toe, folks. I mean, it's got, I think, at least 12 dams. I always forget the number because it's so many. So hydroelectric power is, in terms of generation, is great, right? I mean, we've got it. We almost never lose power out here. But all over the country, you've got aging grids that can't keep up. Costs are going up. They're going to continue to go up. And the reliability of the grid is getting worse. And I think Helene really woke some folks up, because that area should not have been impacted by that hurricane the way it was, right? But you had that massive rainstorm first that came in, saturated. This is my understanding, that came in and saturated the ground, already put rivers at flood stage, and then the hurricane came in and decided to just stop right over you and sit there and dump water. And now you have a massive disaster, which there's still, I mean, people are still living in trailers, and it's a mess out there. And I think it's, in a way, unfortunately, but I think in a way it's a good thing. Don't take me out of context. Don't get it wrong. I think it's a good thing, because I think it makes a lot of people realize how fragile everything is today. I mean, I don't have to tell Patrick that, because I know you live down in Florida. I mean, Hurricane Central, right?
Yep. And I also
So
still am essential personnel down here, so I get activated during emergencies.
yeah, and I've actually worked hurricanes when I was in telecommunications. I used to run a network operations control center for 5 states. One of those states was Virginia. And so you get hurricanes, tropical storms, plus there are always other areas. And so if there was one that hit Florida, even though we might not have a network there, we may be sending guys down there to work that network anyway, just because that's how the industry works. And so you kind of you grow up in that world, more or less. And people, I think, are starting to realize that could happen. It could happen with a big tornado in Nebraska. It could happen on the West Coast. Maybe a big earthquake hits, and now you ain't got power for a month, right? What are you going to do? So I think it's good in the sense that it gets people thinking about, okay, how am I going to keep things running? Because we live in such an electrified world today. So anyway, Electrobuzz, great point on Helene. My uncle actually is in, oh, come on, Eric. My brain just suddenly froze up on me. Not Columbia, wherever the epicenter was. My daughter lives near Columbia, South Carolina, but my uncle's in North Carolina, right, the major city that was hit there. I can't remember which one it was, so brain fade. Is there an off-brand budget battery that you guys have used or worked with that you recommend? I've seen a lot of buzz around dumb fume Redodio, Eco-Worthy, Watts, etc. Was that 2 as in number 2 or 2 Redodio?
No, I have two recommendations.
Oh, well, why don't you give yours? I'll tell you what I think.
So I do. I mean, the market is in flux. There's a lot of competition right now. I don't buy anything based on brand, and I wouldn't recommend anyone else does. That brand loyalty is just a way to lose. Go with what's the best on the market right now, based on competition, prices, whatever. But currently, right now, EcoWorthy is kind of in the lead as far as pre-built, ready-to-go solutions, because their new version 3 battery is probably the cheapest UL listed battery that you're going to find, and it's pretty reliable. However, if you go check out like my most recent video, which was that 16,000 watt hour DIY battery build, that is by far the way to go if you need capacity, power, reliability, cheap. But you have to understand it's not UL listed, so it's not going to be something you can technically use on a grid interconnected system. You'd have to use it for off grid.
Well, I'm going to throw this out. So yes and no to all of those and others. I'll tell you this. If you're looking at buying a battery, you have some options. If you're looking for cheap, then I think probably the best source for a given battery is going to be Will Pros. And I say that because WattCycle is a great example. WattCycle has made fantastic batteries, but they really kind of screwed up on their 300 amp hour battery. And we thought they'd fixed it on their 314 amp hour battery. And they kind of did, except then Will noticed they had an issue with paralleling on that 314 watt hour battery or amp hour battery. You know, Lead Time has made great batteries. Cyclenbat has, Redodio has. A lot of them are made in the same factory by the same companies. But the problem is they've also all had dogs. Just like, believe it or not, there's a cult following with Victron out there, but I know that Victron has made some dogs too. They all do. So I would say, you know, I've had my Vectra batteries have been great. I've never had an issue with my Vetras, with my Lead Times, my Cyclenbats, my Redodios, but that doesn't mean that every battery they make is great. And that's why I say, like, I'm not going to cut a battery open. I always tell people that I'm not cutting it open. I'll test it. I'll play with it a little bit. I'll give you my thoughts on it from that limited use. And usually I don't do battery reviews because I actually don't like to, because it's just not my thing. I'll do it once in a while. But tell you the truth, as I've said recently, usually if I'm doing one now, because I'm giving it away. Right? It depends. Unless I see that I could maybe use it for a specific purpose for myself, typically to make videos. Because otherwise, let's be honest, you know what batteries I run at my cabin? I bet you, I'll tell you what, I'll give a sticker away. I'm going to add to the other guys that I got to send stickers to. The first person that tells me the manufacturer of the batteries that I use at the cabin and where they're made, I'll give you a sticker. So there you go. Let's see who knows.
I'm hearing the Jeopardy music in my mind now.
I'm going to jump right here to, yes, Asheville. Thank you. I knew somebody was going to correct me on that. Yeah, he was in Asheville.
All right.
Okay, let's go back here. Is there a brand? Wear goggles. Always wear goggles. We thought we were ready. Helene proved we're not, but we're much better off now. Yeah, I've heard that a lot, actually. Absolutely, 100%. Is it possible to add a 30 amp generator plug to a main panel for Anchor Solix F3800? There is already a sub panel in the mix that has solar panels and a 48 volt battery. Can both so I'm gonna let Patrick answer this after I give you my answer, which be I would not. Yes, you can add a 30 amp generator plug. So yes, and there's no reason why you couldn't run from a box that has a 30 amp outlet, right, to that plug, as long as it's got the right switch. You know, usually you either have an auto or a manual switch over to kill your grid power and run off your generator. So essentially, these are not generators; they're power stations. I will fight that to my death, but yes, you should be able to do that. And I would, and the rest of what you wrote, you know, that there's a sub panel in the mix and all that, doesn't matter to me. If you're going from a power station, it's no different than going from a generator in terms of that you're hooking it up to your home. So from my perspective, yeah, 30 amp plug and away you go. All right, Patrick, your shot.
No, you nailed it. The only thing I would give caution on is, first of all, I wouldn't answer this question in the stream because I would need to see a diagram before I feel comfortable answering it.
Damn engineers.
But two is that generators are generally kind of designed, when they're the larger generators, to be plugged into your whole home. So they're generally already going to be a floating neutral. But your power station generally is not going to be a floating neutral. So that would be my only concern. But the F3800, that's one of those big systems that's designed for the whole home. So it's probably either got a switch on it or something similar. Because I do remember looking at the F3800 once upon a time before I ended up getting the Apex 300 instead.
Yeah, and I noticed that the Jackery Home Power Plus 3600 has a floating ground on that one. So there you go. Electrobuzz says he has lots of dumb fume. They're great. Yeah, and again, you may find that you do, like I say, Watt Cycle has made some really, really good batteries, but they kind of messed up on their 300 and 314 amp hour ones. So just know that can happen. Power has been getting fragile here in northern Nevada. Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about, right? Like northern Nevada, why would it get fragile there? I mean, you've got probably one of the more stable environments, I would think. It gets hot, but I mean, it's like where I'm at, right? Eastern Washington. I mean, if it starts to get fragile here, the rest of the country's toast, and you better all have off-grid systems. And by off-grid, I do not mean power stations, folks. Power stations are a great way to get you into this world, but they are not ever going to be able to compete with a properly built component-based off-grid system, not in price and not in reliability or expandability.
Yep. Yeah. The flexibility and the ability to scale is going to be dramatically better for a component-based system.
Oh, I mean, look, let's be honest, folks. Try to add a second MPPT charge controller to your power station
without watching my channel and finding a hack for it.
which by the way, I've been thinking about doing myself because I know I can, right? Because it's like, I could do that. But I mean, the average person, and plus it has to be, you either have to break it apart or it's got to have an expansion port, or you got to have a little more knowledge. But with a component-based do-it-yourself off-grid system, you can have 4 charge controllers. It doesn't matter. 1 battery bank, multiple charge. You could have wind, solar, more solar, and hydro if you want.
Hydro. Yeah, I was going to add hydro in, because that's what I would go for if I was off-grid.
And if you want to put your pedal bike in there, if you can bike fast enough, hey, man, go for it. You could do it. Rododeo, Rododios are good. XCNYs, I've had great luck with XCNY. Best battery charger for charging LiPo 4 batteries at the wall, 100 amps.
At the wall, 100 amps?
That's a good question. I'm assuming you mean 100 amp charger.
Yeah.
But what voltage? Because 100 amps at 48 volts is a heck of a lot more than 100 amps at 12 volts.
The EG4 charger is the only one that comes to mind, and that's the one I bought. But I bought that to use with my generator on the 240. Remember, your regular 15 amp outlet from your home is definitely not going to get 100 amps.
Yeah, I mean it can though. If it's 100 amps of 14.4 charging on a LiPo 4, because then it's only drawn less than 15 amps off the wall, right? Because remember,
I'll let you speak while I pull up the charger I have right now, which will actually pop a 15 amp fuse, and it's not even close to 100 amps.
Yeah. So, but 1500 watts is 12.5 amps at 120 volts, and 1500 watts. Let's see. So 100 amps, 100 times 14.4 volts, which is your charging voltage of a 12.8 volt LiPo 4 battery, is 1440.
Oh, he's a 12 volt. Oh, I'm 48. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. You got to tell us if it's 48 volt or 12, because if you're 12, that's different than 48. Now, I will tell you what's the best one. Well, I haven't tested them all, so I can't answer that question. I can tell you that I have used the XCNY 18 amp 48 volt charger for, I don't know, about a year or so now, and it works fine. I have lead time 40 amp charger, works fine. I know that one of my viewers who lives very close to me, Audrey's Appliance, He's got at least, I think, 2 lead time 40 amp chargers and has had for a while. They were great for him. So, I mean, I haven't really, I've only reviewed, I think, one. I've also got a battery or a big battery charger, 24 volts, that works fine. So, um, and Dane got the, I see Dane, you're the first one to answer that question, by the way. So folks, I don't know if you saw that. I asked 2 questions though, so you only got half of it right. Let's see if you can get the other half right. So the question was, who made my batteries and where were they made? And yes, they're 24 volts. You got that right. You're getting there, buddy. Come on. Let's see if you can figure the rest out. You'd have to take a guess. I might have to give it to Dane because
the closest,
because he's got the closest. So they're American made. And oh, look at that. He even got the bloody, and you think you're right too. I'm not exactly sure what, I thought they were made in Arizona, but I think they might be made in California. I'm going to give it to you. And yes, so I'm running, and just to go back to the best battery to buy, all that kind of stuff, I'm running American made 24 volt big battery mules that I bought about 2 years ago, before the mad craze and prices and everything took a tank. So I paid $1,200 a battery for those. So imagine 120 amp hour, 12 volt or 24 volt batteries for $1,200, right? You could get that battery today for a third of that price, right? But I'll tell you this, anytime I have a question and I pick up the phone and I call Big Battery, guess what? They answer. And they answer, and they're either in Arizona or California. I can never remember. And maybe it's California, and I always assume it's Arizona. But and I had a great chat with them. First, if you get on their website, you could pull up chat, and it's somebody there local that answers you in the chat, an actual person. Although I think they do have a chat bot, but that's just to get you started. And then you actually get one of their engineers or whoever in the chat chatting with you. You can email them and you can pick the phone up and call them. And I did that recently because I noticed something with my batteries that I thought, I need a question. I need to get this question answered, because they don't always charge at the same rate or draw at the same rate. And I was thinking that I was using a lot more power than I was for some reason. Just, well, to be honest, I was using a LiFePO4 battery voltage chart that was actually incorrect. And I didn't know it. It just looked good. It looked like all the others. They sent me a different one that gave me slightly different results, but it's the one they use for their batteries. So they're an American-made company. And I'm going to tell you that 2 years in using those batteries, I'd put them up against anybody else's, but they don't make them anymore. And I'm not sure why. I didn't ask them why. Who knows? Could be any number of reasons, because companies change all the time. I will tell you this. I learned from somebody else, and I don't know if this is true, so I should say I heard from them, that the guy that built Outback, and Outback makes awesome charge controllers. In fact, I'll put them up against Victron any day of the week. They're a lot more expensive too. But it's my understanding that he left Outback and started the big battery store. So I'm not 100% sure about that, but that's what I heard. So, I mean, you're not buying big batteries cheap. And it looks like actually Patrick's on their website right now.
Yeah, I got show and tell stuff when it's ready for me.
Here, well, let's do this. Let's see if I can put your screen all the way up. Let's see if I can figure out. Here we go. Nope, I need to do it.
That's if I share my screen probably, but yeah, it's just my video feed.
Oh yeah, your video feed. So it makes it harder for me to make it really easy for people to see.
That's fine. I could just do this.
How about this? I could do it this way.
I can just share my screen. I can share my screen too. That
way. Oh yeah, you could do that. If you want to share yours, if you'll present it, then I'll pop it up for everybody. So, well, while he's doing that, if he could figure that out. So Dane, don't you already have a sticker, Dane? I'll send you another one. I got your address somewhere. Oh, that was Dr. W.J. Brown answering yes to whatever we asked him before, which was about the Pecron. So I think we got you there. If not, remind us. 2 of these puppies myself. Oh, you've got the Huskies. Oh, okay. I bet you like them too, don't you? I picked them up for a discount when they couldn't ship them. Oh, sweet, because you're down there. You can go get them. Wouldn't that be nice? Have you seen, there's another company that used to sell Big Battery stuff, and I don't know if they split, they're making their own, or Big Battery is making their stuff for them, but it's Battery Evo. And Battery Evo has some interesting stuff too. Oh, look, they're selling EG4.
Yeah, well, so the show and tell, it'd be quick. Basically,
Go for it.
recommended charger. I went to Big Battery because it just came up first, and we were talking about it. But the EG4 charge inverter is for 48 volt exclusive, but it is a 100 amp charger, and I bought it. And there's a new version of it coming out soon, so maybe this will go even cheaper.
Screen's backwards, but I'm guessing that's $635.
Yeah, well, it looks right for me. I don't know if it's backwards for the.
Yeah, it's showing a spinner. Yeah, because you have to mirror your screen to. It's weird when you when you do it this way.
But the
oh wait, let's see. What do you? I have 2 for you now. I can add another one to the stage. There you go. Look at that.
All right, cool.
So now you got your other screen up.
This is my personal recommendation for a basic charger. I got it used on eBay. It's been absolutely bulletproof, fully adjustable as far as how much current you want to push down the road. And I can push all of a 15 amp circuit through this to a 48 volt battery.
So I noticed they call it a charge inverter, and I think there's a lot of confusion in the off-grid component world. Like, one of the things that I absolutely detest is when someone calls an all-in-one system an inverter. It does have an inverter, but it is not an inverter. It is a all-in-one system, and it has a charge controller and an inverter and a charger. So a charge inverter, help me understand this one, because I keep seeing that pop up, and to me that would mean it's a charger and inverter, which I used to call an inverter charger.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, the naming conventions are getting crazy and confusing for everyone. The solar power station is just one of those things that can get you like literally walked off a plank somewhere. So
oh yeah.
Don't ever use that term, but this is just a charger. It is just a standalone charger. And what's so specifically nice about this one, besides the fact that it's 100 amps for a good price, is that if you have a big generator that is not pure sine, it will clean up that dirty power and make it capable of charging your batteries. Because normally when you have your all-in-one inverters, they charge your batteries through your grid connection. You hook an old generator to it that doesn't have pure sine, the sine wave is not clean enough for it to actually charge. So
So
this is the correction for that. You can use
that's why it's a charge inverter, because it's actually
cleaning
it's taking that power and cleaning it up. So, and by the way, folks, I want to make this very clear. I do not anyway, and I'm sure Patrick does not have any affiliation with Big Battery. So I don't have an affiliate program. If you buy something for them, I don't earn a dime from it. But I was asked about batteries, and I'm just being totally honest with you that I'm running their batteries. Now, I will say this. My next system I'm building is based on Vetter batteries. But at the cabin, I bought Big Battery batteries, and I mean, they're rock solid batteries, and their support is beyond stellar.
Yeah. So I have no affiliations with anyone, no sponsorships with anyone. Anyone who ever does decide to send me something has to agree that I get to do it all on my own terms, and it gets published before they even see it. Because if you can't trust your product, then I don't want it.
Yep, I agree with that 100%.
And also, for those who don't know, I mean, we keep saying I'm an engineer. I still work full-time, husband, father, this and that and the other. YouTube is just a passion for me on my free time, which I don't have because I never sleep.
Most Marines don't. Isn't that right, Dane?
So it's just there for everyone else's benefit, and my hobby is to keep my brain sharp. It's not money for me, and I make zero. That $10 donation that we got today is more money than I'll make on YouTube this month.
So full disclosure, I do make a little more than Patrick does on YouTube. I actually, and that is something about YouTube, which is a challenge. I'm basically retired. I don't like the term disabled veteran, but I guess that's what I am. But I don't work. I live on my disability, but you can make money on YouTube. So I'll be totally honest with you. I do. And And I know that that's a challenge for some sometimes, but I figure I work at it full time. So, why not? Right. I don't make a lot, and I'll tell you that it takes a lot of views to make a lot on YouTube. If you see a channel that's getting 1 million views a month, they're making about $5,000 a month. I don't have 1 million views a month. As my wife says, you better start making my quitting money. Well, I ain't yet.
I mean, that's just it. So yeah, it's a hobby, it's a passion. I'm still many years away from retiring fully, unfortunately, and I need to work on my disability, as we were talking about offline before we started the show today. But I want to have this to fall back on when I get to where Eric's at. When I finally can put this as a full-time thing, I'm hoping to have the audience there waiting for me. And if shit really does hit the fan and I can't make it the full way, because I really do fight with a lot of disabilities, I would like to be able to have this as enough income to keep the roof over our heads. So it's kind of neat in that regard.
I'm gonna throw this out there for the audience. There was a study done. If you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you, but this will be fun. You'll enjoy it. That they looked at the average 4-year service term for each of the services, and they wanted to know how long, if you did 4 years in a given service, would it take for you to readjust to civilian life. And so they looked at the Air Force, and for the Air Force, if you got out after 4 years, they determined that it would take about 2 weeks to adjust to civilian life. For the Navy, the Navy, they said 2 months. Now the Army was a lot tougher, I guess, on people, and so they said if you did 4 years in the Army, it'd take about 2 years to adjust to civilian life. And then they looked at Marines, and they just said, forget it. It's not happening.
I have some anecdotal story to go with that. Actually, there's a gentleman who's no longer with us. His name was William April, and he was an FBI criminal psychologist. And I got to meet him. One of the things I do besides this YouTube and this is I work with a lot of veterans for self-defense training, something we do on the side. And William April was going around to the prisons interviewing these murderers, the worst kinds of people, the people that have done armed breaking and entering, that kind of thing, and done so intentionally. And he knows everything about the psyche of the mind and how things work. He knows about the armed forces. And he told me when we were sitting down having lunch one day that the Marine Corps is the Marines are the only people on the entire planet that are programmed to be immune to Stockholm syndrome.
Well, that's probably true.
He says that the training that we go through, we're so mentally unmapped that we're different than everyone else. And my wife agrees.
We're different.
My wife agrees that there should be some kind of almost like a halfway house for
halfway house for Marines. I'm going to tell you that's true. There should be,
because it is hard. It is very hard to come back to regular life.
So we'll get back to that, but I want to get to Crashing Kev. Do either of you run DC powered appliances, or is it easy? So yes and no. I will tell you this: inverters take idle power, idle power consumption, and I actually didn't. I believe in set and forget, and I really wasn't paying that close attention to the amount of power that my big inverter was using, because frankly, I wasn't really worried about it because I built my system around everything. And I have lots of power and it's fine. But I was almost embarrassed to say that the Jackery that I was testing out at the cabin was more efficient by a lot than my SunGold Power 4,000 watt low frequency inverter was. Now I know that high frequency inverters are going to use less idle power than a low frequency inverter. I know that. But there was just this kind of like, are you really using that much power to run the inverter? And the answer is, yeah, you can. And it made me realize that if I were to get a far more efficient inverter for just the little stuff and maybe split my circuits up, like lights and fridge and stuff like that, then I wouldn't necessarily need to run that big inverter except when I needed it, and it would save me a ton. So that's number one. Number two, I run actually a DC ceiling fan, not totally the same thing, but close enough. as well as multiple DC fans, usually computer type fans, and my car stereo, which is DC. And one of the reasons for that is that you don't need the inverter to run all that. And so my system is never shut off. I never shut it down, but I do shut my inverter down, because the inverter is your big energy hog when you're not running anything else. And even a fairly efficient inverter can use 8, 10, 12, 15 watts in idle. So I know that the Victron's all-in-one system, I think they claim an 8-watt idle power consumption. That's probably the lowest I've seen. So kudos to Victron for that.
Yep.
I think EG4 is also quite small,
depending on the model. Yep.
Yeah, my lead time all-in-one, I think I measured it at about 10 watts idle consumption. So those are pretty good, especially for considering it's an all-in-one system on top of that, because your charge controllers actually use about a watt or less as well. And whereas that big low frequency inverter is supposed to use about 45 to 48 watts, I actually think it uses more like 100. But and I need to test that. But so the thing is even at 10 watts, right, that's 100 watt hours in 10 hours. And if you're like me and you leave all of that stuff running, looks like we lost Patrick there, or he just turned his camera off. But if you leave all of that running, then it can drain your batteries down fairly quickly. So in my video that I put out yesterday, I talked about killing lead acid batteries, and that's how I killed them. It's the, you just don't think always, especially early on when you're first putting a system together, that the inverter should be shut off, but maybe you forgot to shut it off. You weren't worried about it. And then you didn't realize if you don't get any sun, those batteries are eventually going to die. So if you can run DC appliances, that skips the need for the inverter, and they're typically more efficient. So, I mean, and it was for the off-grid world, it was a big deal years ago, where people would not use 120 volt refrigerators and freezers if they could get away with it. They would get, a 12 volt or 24 volt freezers and fridges and things like that, because they're more efficient and usually super insulated. And I'll bet if you go to backwoodssolar.com, they probably still have appliances like that there. So and think about it. Even if your DC appliance had the same so Patrick, there you are. You're back now. Let me put Patrick back up. We lost him for a bit. Let me add him to stage. There you are. So even if if that appliance is exactly the same efficiency wise as the 120 volt side, you need the inverter to get the 120 volts, so it uses more power. So it's never really going to be the same. You're always better off if you can run the DC side. The other advantage of running only DC is that if your inverter fails, you can still run those appliances. Yep. So it's a matter of what are you willing to do cost wise, though. Sometimes those DC appliances are more expensive, I think, because it's supply and demand, right? It's not because they're more expensive to build. I think it's because less people are buying them, or less people want them, and more people want 120 volts. So the 120 volts built in, mass produced, so it's cheaper to buy. So there's my answer on that. Let's see. You posted a YouTube. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, for this topic specifically, the inverter drain, that's a whole video specific to that, and it teaches you a lot about the things you might not have known about, solutions you didn't know about, and the fact that you probably have a lot of DC appliances in your house you didn't know about, because the average consumer doesn't know that when you're plugging in that wall wart that goes into the wall, that it's converting it to DC power for that appliance. So
yeah. So Dane, actually, I will tell you this. I learned about a dozen years ago, close to, from my son-in-law, who's a Navy corpsman who served with the Marines in Afghanistan, that they actually were doing after action debriefs, including the emotional side, immediately after action. And they weren't letting them out right away. Like for me, I got back from the Gulf and was out 2 weeks later or something like that. Now they won't do that. Apparently they hold them for a couple months and they make them actually do some counseling and some adjustments. So, and I don't know when you got out, because I think you got out maybe a little bit longer ago, like me. But it seems like today Marine's getting out, and actually Patrick is probably the better example, because you got out early 2000s, Patrick.
No. Mid 2000s, but
Oh, mid. Okay. So did you get dumped out, or did they talk to you a little bit? You don't have to tell us everything, but I'm
they just
curious
dumped
because
us out.
they just dumped you out.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm totally wrong, everybody.
Uh, but I mean, I don't know. That age I went in, it was still the old core. You know, things have changed a lot. But I think I was one of the last people to cycle through the old way, like
No, okay.
stuff that I don't even want to talk about in the stream. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah. No. So my son-in-law, he came back from Afghanistan. I want to say it was in either 13 or 14. I can't remember. So, all right. Victron Phoenix Smart Solar 24-volt models are great for low idle consumption. Yeah. And I've heard that some of that Victron stuff, and for those that saw my video, hopefully you got the point of what I was trying to get to in the Victron versus lead time video. I'm not saying Victron doesn't make good stuff. That's not what I was saying in that video. I'm sure they make some great stuff. Although I do kind of feel like there's a bit of a cult following with the blue stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I know from some very good sources they make good stuff, and I've often recommended them. It's just that sometimes people say things and I go, I don't know. So
because there's definitely a cult following there. I think it's somewhat earned. Like if you were to tell me, build a system for this boat or build a system for this camper van, and it's going to leave Florida and it's going to make it to California and back, like I would trust Victron for that more so than
except for I think the 130.
But I like Victron stuff.
Because I talked to so many people that said that particular model had a bad overheating problem.
I know
I thought, okay,
their old DCs were super toasty. They got some new ones like the Orion XSs, which are supposed to be way better now.
Well, and I think it was Junker. He goes by Matt, or he goes with Matt, who goes by Junker, who's another engineer. I think he's the one that said that the one problem with Victron is that their old models are often still listed just like the new ones, and the naming convention is the same. And so if you don't know that that's an older model, you may buy one not realizing it's not their latest and greatest. So something to know.
Yeah, that's what I said.
All right, let's look at Bill's question here.
Yep.
Just installed a 12-volt, 500 amp hour, 100 amp hour in parallel with 50. Okay, so 500 amp hours is not 4 or 100, so you must have been typoed. 12-volt, 400 amp hour in parallel with 1500-watt inverter to cover short up to 19 hours power outages. Any suggestions? Yes, convert to 48 volts. That'd be my first suggestion. And I know that sounds crazy, and if you don't do it, that's okay. I ran 12 volts for a long time. But by converting to 48 volts, you use smaller conductors, so less expensive, smaller fuses, smaller breakers. It's more efficient. But setting that aside, what kind of suggestions are you looking for? Because the big challenge, honestly, is knowing more about what you're doing, right? So, you've got 4 100 amp hour batteries in parallel, so 400 amp hours at 12 volts, so 12.8 volts. 1500 watt inverter. Okay, 1500 watt inverter for what? Like, for example, if you told me you wanted to run an air conditioner, I'd go, that inverter's too small. Not unless you've got a really, really efficient inverter, maybe with a inverter AC unit with a soft start. So we need to know more information. So, tell us a little bit more about what you're trying to run for 19 hours, like your whole house or just a refrigerator, right? Like, and that's the key here. So go ahead, give us that information. then we'll answer. But always, I know 12 volt is common for people because your car is 12 volt. It's kind of easy to wrap your head around. Today, I would not build a 12 volt system except to show you how to do it.
And I'm the same, except unless the main purpose is 12-volt DC. So
Yes.
my solar shed outside is running a 12-volt system intentionally because it runs 12-volt landscape lights, 12-volt motion lights, and it's got a small little inverter in there to charge my tool batteries. So
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, if you're only running 12-volt stuff, there's no point in converting from 24 or 48 to 12 if you're not running anything else. But the thing to remember is you're running a 400 amp system. And now if you're only running a 1500 watt inverter, you're not talking a lot of amps, so you don't have to cable that big, but you're still talking. I mean, okay, where's my calculator here? Because
well,
my
this
brain doesn't work that well. So
I mean, this is a Victron 1200. It's running a
1500
6 gauge
divided
on
by
it.
12.8. So that's 117 amps. So yeah, you need big. And sorry, Patrick, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh
What
yeah,
were you saying?
I was just trying to say I have the 48-volt 1200 Victron right there, and it takes 6 gauge to run it safely.
Yeah, exactly. That was what I was getting. We were both heading in the same direction. So 12 volts, 1500 amps, a 12-volt system, which Lifeboat Force is 12.8 volts. And that's what you base your calculations off of, is 118 amps. So you need big fat cables for that, and big fuses, big breakers. Versus a 48 volt, you need cables that can handle a quarter of that amperage.
Yeah, and unfortunately, telling you to do this instead of that is not great advice when you've already potentially
Yes.
purchased or owned something. And I know that sucks to hear it, but we're just trying to like give you guidance. You can technically convert your 4 12-volt batteries into a 48-volt battery by putting them in series, and you might choose to do that if you haven't already bought the inverter or something, you already own the batteries. But just know that when you have series batteries, then you have to deal with balancing issues, which is even more money to spend on converting your system, because now you're going to
Right.
want to probably go buy an
Right.
active balancer.
Yeah. So there's always trade-offs in either direction, but be sure to let us know a little bit more what it is you're trying to do, Bill, so that we can help answer that. Crash and Kev, just dipped my toe into alternative power world Mega One and an OptiSolix. Nice. My Opus Mega One sits in the back of my Jeep right now. And I've actually got an Opus Beta DC to DC charger that works very well with that Opus Mega One. It works through the B2 port, by the way, which I think is hilarious, which goes back to something I said earlier about charge controllers. But it's a great little one to start off with because it has so much potential. And I really like that OptiSolix solar bag. I'm actually going to get to play with their charge controller soon because they make a charge controller too. It's a new company, and I applaud them for the solar bag because I love the size of it and the convenience of it, right? Like, just because, like, I mean, my Jackery bifacial panels will put out more power. I mean, you're not going to beat bifacial with an N-type panel. I don't think. I really don't think you can, because you can get power on the bifacial panels from both sides of the panel. But that 500 watt setup is huge in comparison and takes a lot more setup and a lot more work. And I could take that OptiSolix solar bag and throw it out on the ground and get good power out of it, or hang it off my balcony or on the side of my Jeep or wherever the heck I want. And I love the fact that it folds up so small, which I'm sure you've noticed, right? Like, it's just, you fold it up into a little briefcase and carry it around and throw it away somewhere or whatever, throw it in the back of your Jeep. I don't mean throw it away, like throw it away, but throw it in the back of your Jeep, your truck, your car, your closet, whatever. It's out of the way. I really do like that setup. And so that's my go-to overland rig actually right now. But yeah, I mean, I've hacked the heck out of Opus, and I'm going to do some more with them too. So do it yourself. Yeah. So this is something that I'm a huge advocate for. Power stations are not the answer all the time. They're a great way to get you into doing something that is great to be able to do, and providing your own home backup system You look, you can do it the easy way with an all-in-one system like the EG4 products, the Victron products. I don't care, lead time, whoever. Those are really easy to set up, really convenient. That's probably your next step from a power station, because it's almost a power station, but they have way more capabilities. But the one thing about all-in-one systems that I would say is on the pro side is that you can add more charge controllers to your battery bank because it's not part of the all-in-one system. Whereas, they have some other downfalls. Like, I'm not a huge fan at all of all-in-one systems because if the inverter goes, well, now what are you going to do? I mean, you can get an inverter and hook it up to your batteries and just use the charger and MPPT part of that all-in-one system. But maybe those are going to fail at some point too, right? Like maybe the whole system's going to melt down.
Yeah.
You can't just like stop and replace one component easily. That's why I'm a huge fan of do-it-yourself component-based systems.
And I feel like likely the consumer market that's interested in the all-in-ones, they're the ones that as soon as that first piece of it fails, they consider that whole thing junk. They're not going to take the time to figure out how to use the battery or fix the inverter. It's a consumer. It's a consumer throwaway, and they probably timed their warranties to fail just before.
No, yeah. I mean, so like I said earlier, that I have Morningstar and Outback, and I mean, honestly, folks, like that Morningstar charge controller today is still like, I think it was like $768 today. Back in 2010, it was like $500, which was astronomical. It's a big chunk of change. But the difference is that is still working 15 years later. And I don't have no doubt in my mind that if I hook it back up at my cabin again, it'll work for another 15 years. It'll work as long as I need it to. It wasn't cheap, but it's not going to fail. But if you look at it and compare it to any of these other ones, it's like twice the size, and the heat sink on it looks like it could cool your whole house. Right? I mean, it's got a massive heat sink on it. So, and from a component base, you can replace just one component easily. And if you build a system, for example, let's say you put in 10 kilowatt hours of battery power, right? Or 20 or whatever, because you figure that for however many hours you need for your home backup system, that's going to work. And you put 2 charge controllers or 3 in, depending on how many arrays you put in, but you put in more than one array, so more than one charge controller, and one of those charge controllers fails, you still have one running, and you just need to get another charge controller to replace the one that fails, or have the one that failed rebuilt or warranted by the company that made it. And that's the beauty of a component-based system, where you choose each component for the reasons you choose them, right? I mean, it's got a good name, it meets the requirements, it has expandability. So for example, I put in a 60 amp charge controller knowing full well that I may not at the time put more than 20 amps of charging through it. But I also knew that I had hoped to get more of those same solar panels and feed multiple solar or multiple parallel strings into that one system. So I was going to do at least 2 or 3 parallel strings of the same panels that were in series, so a series parallel configuration, through my combiner box. My combiner box was capable of paralleling 6 strings. So I knew that eventually I would use that 60 amps, but you can do that. You're not limited. Like with a power station, you got a 10 amps, that's it. You got 10 amps, you're done. Have a nice day. You're not adding more. So do it yourself is, and that may be like way more information than you wanted to know, but my point is just that you can choose components based on what your future plans are too.
Yep. And there's small wins to be found in there too. The same concept can be thought of in different ways. So think about your all-in-one power station. It's got the MPPT, it's got the battery, it's got the inverter. What are the chances that you think that every one of those pieces are going to fail at the exact same time? So you're going to take some kind of loss there unless it is under warranty still. But at some point in time, it's going to fail when it's outside of warranty. If it was a DIY system, you can just replace that one piece that failed.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the limitations of the MPPTs on power stations. We see this as a complaint. It's pretty common. How do you max out your solar charging because of these weird voltage restrictions, et cetera, et cetera? So a lot of times people spend a lot more money on solar panels than they need over paneling in parallel. But if you have a DIY system, you could just add a second MPPT, use the exact same number of panels, but actually get more power out of them because you're not going to clip your single MPPT. You
Yep.
can configure and scale and plan everything. And it's also just nice to know what's inside of something. So
Oh yeah.
the DIY battery, you know, every single part of it that's inside of it. It comes with Eve cells. You know, they're good for 8,000 cycles. Like when you take the time to learn how to do the DIY system, then you're going to be teaching yourself how to maintenance it and all these other things that are just going to
And
save
then
you
you could
more.
start a YouTube channel and teach everybody else how.
But speaking of, if you're not a guy who feels like guy or woman, I don't want to just use those terms, but if you're someone who doesn't feel comfortable with DIY, understand that all these people, like the EcoFlow people and the Jackery and the Blue Eddy people, they're buying these whole home systems because they say it's easier than DIY, but they're not doing anything. They're still paying an electrician to install their smart home panel. They're still paying for this and that and the other. And by the time they spent all that money on that system, they could have gotten a bigger, better system professionally installed by somebody and still not had to touch anything.
True.
And so it's like you have to connect your thoughts all the way around. And so people think, oh, it's so much easier just to plug this extra battery in and it's done versus a DIY thing. But really, a DIY battery is just two cables instead, a positive and a
Right.
negative. It's really,
Yeah.
it's not as hard as people think it is, but they get scared of it because you're like, it's electricity and it's power. And yes, it's true. It's potentially dangerous. It can be scary. But then again, like I said, take your cost savings and pay a professional.
Yeah, you could. And I'm going to tell you one other thing about the DIY systems that if you hadn't thought of, and we've kind of said it, but to really drive that nail home, you can start today with a basic system and in several years have updated and upgraded that system throughout that period of time easily as you find that you have newer needs or, you know, or whatever. And that's exactly what I did. I mean, I started with 6 golf cart batteries, a 2,500 watt modified sine wave inverter, a 40 amp PWM charge controller, and an IOTA 55 amp charger to run off of a small generator. And very quickly, I went to MPPT charge controller. That's the Morningstar that I bought. And then upgraded, well, then went to 8 batteries and then 12 batteries, and then upgraded to 24 volts with the same batteries. I just configured them differently. And a complete 24 volt inverter charger. And, you know, and that worked great. And then from there, I added a automatic generator start switch and a battery meter. And then from there, I added a whole nother solar array with another MPPT charge controller. And then I upgraded to LifePo 4s and so on. And so when I upgraded to my LifePo 4 batteries, I didn't have to change anything else. When I decided to play with the Bateria charge controller that I currently am using on my smaller array, I didn't have to change anything else. I just pulled the Morningstar off the wall after shutting it off and disconnecting it, put the Bateria in, wired it up with all the same connections and everything, and flipped it on and walked away. And that's the beauty of DIY, is that once you build that system, you're not restricted. You could take a small, you know, 5 kilowatt system and make a 50 kilowatt system with it down the road without changing all the components out and having to buy something new. Well, I mean, you have to buy something new to get more capacity, but you don't have to buy an entirely new system. Whereas like if you start with let's say you start with an Opus Mega 1 and you go to the full, the full, you know, 5 kilowatt Opus system, and then decide, well, I'm going to put 10 kilowatts like Eric did with these Vetter, you know, server rack batteries. Maybe you use eco-worthy batteries or whatever. It doesn't matter, but you do that. And then you go, well, that inverter's too small. Well, now you might as well just take the Opus and put it in your Jeep and go and build your own do-it-yourself system, because it just makes more sense. Sorry, my throat's getting dry.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can't
But we
be
have a
creative.
question up on the board here while we're at it. So let's see what we got here from Douglas. Really learning a lot from both of you. Thanks. Question back on the Power AC unit, or Pioneer AC unit I have. It connected to the Phoenix 24 1200 watt 2 Rodeo 24 volts. The question is a generator switch AB ground.
I think they're talking about the floating versus bonded.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So the question was about the ground, right? AC unit, I have it connected to the Phoenix 24-1200. So the Phoenix 24-1200 must be an all-in-one system. I'm not familiar with that.
That would be a Victron 24.
Oh, that's
volt.
a Victron. Oh, gotcha.
Yep. So it's just a little baby inverter.
Oh yeah, 1200 watts, 24 volts. Okay, I got you. I'm not that familiar with Victron gear. And then the two Rodeo batteries. The question is a generator switch AB ground. So you want to use that to power the AC unit when the power goes out? Is that what you're saying? I think maybe that's what he's asking. I'm a little confused. Let's see what the next. Here's the follow-up. If I connect to the main 100 amp house grid, will the house ground backfeed or keep it separated? Thanks again. So Victron has black and white, but house is white and black grounded. Well, white is usually common.
I would be running that small Victron as an off-grid unit. I wouldn't have it touching anything on the panel. It's really not, in my opinion, large enough to be useful to be feeding into a panel.
Yeah, I would run that separate, completely separate. I would run it as an off-grid setup myself. And you could ground it.
You can do, I don't have my screen shared right now, but you can get like automatic transfer switches for a single plug, for example.
The screen, is that the one you wanted? Oh, that's your email.
That's fine. I'll find it. Let's see. I actually had a couple of things on here. Let me find one of them, but I might have lost it. This is cool. We were talking about the backfeeding earlier. If you are going to backfeed a generator, this might be a safer way to do it. You can use your plug for your dryer, and this has a built-in breaker, and you can monitor the power and everything.
Oh,
so not that I recommend backfeeding because technically it is illegal, folks, but with a generator like that. But this is a much safer way to do it. But yes, you can also go, let's go to Amazon and just look for like a automatic 120 transfer switch.
Yeah.
Plug or something like that.
Yeah. So that's back to the old, you got a power outage.
You'll find something like this, and you should be able to use this. One of them going into your grid outlet and one of them going into your inverter, and then plugging your AC into that. Does that make sense? If that works for you.
Oh, Douglas is saying he sent a picture in his email. Maybe switch. Okay, so good. Okay, what else we got, folks? We've been going 2 hours now, so that's good. I always judge my lives on how active they are if I'm still talking at 2 hours into the live. So we're still going, and I can actually give away more memberships. Did anybody on the stream get any? I'm wondering now. So according to this, I can toss some more out there. So guess what? Let's do that. Let's go ahead and throw them out there. Let's see if it pops up. There it is. Okay, let's find out if anybody. The last time I did it, actually, some of the guys were on that got memberships. And I will tell you, folks, I don't do Patreon. I know a lot of channels do Patreon. I don't because, frankly, I'm just a one guy doing it by himself kind of channel. And with 2 videos a week, I find myself pretty stinking busy full time just trying to do those videos. So to try to manage something else, like some guys put a whole bunch of stuff on Instagram or Facebook, and yes, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I don't do very much on those platforms because I find my time is best spent just doing videos on YouTube. So so that's what's going on there. But and it's just all about trying to answer questions for you, and that's really all I'm trying to do. I did see those come through, so let's see. JAH, Crypto Bedell, Michael Presley, Don Patoka, and Molly all got them this time around. Those are names I don't currently recognize. Who got them before? Let's see. Skipper, Growing What I Eat, Lane Penny, Dan Daly. I love that name. Can't imagine why. And Sinister Silverado. There you go. So hopefully some of those folks are around. All right, what else we got, folks? Who's got some other questions for us? Don't be shy. We'll answer them. I answer. Hey, I got to tell you, I've been thinking a little bit about the the picture I put up, the Pecron, but somebody mentioned, somebody asked me, why did you cut the end off and throw that away when you could have cut it in the middle and had two? And I kind of chuckled about that when I heard that, because I've done it twice.
Soon to come.
And and I thought, that's a great point. And I did it for my video. So one of the things I should tell you is, if you haven't figured it out yet, I will do a lot of things for you in a video. It's not necessarily what I would personally do, meaning that, for example, I said earlier, I wouldn't build a 12-volt system for myself. And I have a 24-volt system. I did build 12 volts 15 years ago, but I soon learned that at that point, 24 volts was much better. And if I were to build one today, most likely I would go 48 volt. I mean, I think 24 is perfectly fine too, but I think I would go 48 volt for a number of different reasons. But that doesn't mean that I won't do a video on how to do 24 volts, if that makes sense, because people still want to know how to do it. And when it comes to the power stations, I don't really need to hack a power station. I just think it's fun. And sorry, I do. Because they say you can't, right? Like I love what
they say
guys like Patrick is probably not very popular with the EcoFlow crowd.
I'm currently banned from their Facebook page right now.
Because he could tell you how to hack your EcoFlows, which is why I invited him on tonight. We haven't really talked about that. So let's do this. How many of you guys are out there that have EcoFlow and want to know how? Because if there are some of you out there, let us know, because I don't want to have Patrick go on for the next 10 minutes about how to do an EcoFlow hack if nobody out there's watching to do EcoFlow. But back to the hacking the battery cable in half, it was just to see what could be done. And it never occurred to me that I might want two cables, to be honest with you. I only have one Pecron, and I actually don't even have it right now. And I only have one Opus Mega 1. So it never occurred to me that I might want two. And I wish I had thought of it that way then, because it would have made a great point in the video. I mean, honestly, it would have made a great point, but I don't always think that way. I am the Marine that is willing to charge that, machine gun pit on the hill. And it's that, that mentality, that burning building mentality. The Marines are the ones that go charging into the fire to try to drag people out. And the Air Force are the ones that sit back and try to analyze how they might be able to save people. It's not always the best way to charge in first when the flames are still going, but that's the way we are brought up as Marines. And so when it comes to cutting a cable apart, the mission was, can I make this work? Not, if I make it work, what does that mean down the road? So I just cut the end off, right? Just cut the end off, make the cable work. And look, it works. And then when someone says, why didn't you cut it in half? You could have had two. I go, damn it. Why didn't I think of that? So there you go. Oh, good Lord. Okay, let's see if anybody's answered. Let's see. Heath says hack away. Let's see. Dane is doing the Mega 1 cable hack right in the middle of it. Sweet. Electrobuzz wants to know how to do EcoFlow. Okay, so Heath is interested, I think, in EcoFlow, but I can just watch one of his videos if you don't want to go over. Well, he'll do the video too. Don't worry.
Yeah, we'll have to do the video for the details. We'll just do like a 5-minute brief, like what the heck's going on.
Yeah, so let's do it. Let's absolutely do that right now. So take it away, Patrick. Hack and Eco. Tell us how to do it. It looks like Dane is telling us right now down here.
All right. If you want to throw my screen share up there, we'll make it a little easier.
Let's do it.
All right. First of all, the people who do follow my channel, it might not be many here, and that's fine. People kept asking, why hasn't this happened yet? It's because 2 times now I bought the cable I was planning on buying and using for this. I wanted a nice 5-meter cable for the exact same reason we were just talking about. I was planning on cutting it right down the middle and actually having 2 nice length cables, or cutting it right at the end like you had done, so I'd have 1 long cable so I can use it for batteries and MPPTs and a bunch of crazy stuff. Some of these sellers are not reliable from Amazon. These were marked as delivered and never showed up. So just the other day, I finally went and I ordered just the original EcoFlow cable. and I have it now. So it's just a tiny one, and it's not the big long one that I wanted. So what I've had to do is completely modify the plan. Instead of building a power cable, I'm going to be building a power box. Kind of how you had that hub D1 and the hub A1 and all that stuff. I'm actually going to be taking a project box and connecting Anderson inside of it. It's going to have the required electronics to do the bypass for the power, and it's going to have an on-off switch. So I don't have my old, actually, no, it's over here. It's different. Let me see. I had a whole bunch of material pulled up earlier today and I lost it. Here's the project.
So you're gonna cut one end off and run it and put it into a 50 amp Anderson plug.
Yep. So this project box here, one side of it will have the cut cable coming in. The other side will have an Anderson going out. And inside of this box is going to contain an Anderson for the outbound side. It's going to have a little circuit board with the appropriate size resistors and everything for the bypass. And I'm going to put a button or a switch on it to turn it off and on. Something I noticed with the Apex 300, I really like that EcoFlow does not do. Let me pull this guy over here. The power cable for the Apex 300 looks like this, and it's really neat because it locks in with these click lock mechanisms on the side.
Yeah, but the Open Speed 2 cable has a lock.
But in addition to that, there's a switch on the back that says lock. And
interesting.
What I noticed is that there's no power transfer through this until you actually click the lock on.
Oh, interesting.
Versus the cable.
To me, that's just another switch to fail.
It is, but I'll explain what I think is actually happening here and why I think it's neat.
So, by the way, folks, he is going to get to how to hack the EcoFlow. He's just telling you what you're going to see in his video and what he's going to do.
Yeah, it's way too detailed. Do the how to.
No, it's clear to me you'll need to do the video because.
So basically, those pins that are in the middle of this, there's some data pins in there, and if we hack those properly, we'll get full voltage right out of the battery through those big 2 terminals. But I don't think it's very safe to be sending power out of those terminals in a live condition. So the design that I've come up with is actually going to work very similar to how the battery cable for...
Oh, you're going to put okay, I got it. I got you where you're getting to. This is the engineer, folks. So it's not going to be a backwoods mountain hack like me.
So basically what I'm going to have happen is when you plug in the power cable to the back of the Delta unit, it will send no power until you press the switch that actually turns on the override.
And that's what's going to connect those pins together, I'm betting.
Yes, correct.
Now, there is something I saw. You need to have a resistor, though, between those.
There's going to be a resistor. Yeah, it's a 1 kilo ohm resistor. And I'm going to solder it down to a little project board, like a breadboard.
So that makes sense. So I like what he's talking about, folks, because if you're following along, I've been wondering about this myself because I've seen some others do this. I think Jasonoid did it now. I've seen it on Reddit and some other places. And what they're often doing is just taking a resistor and just soldering it to 2 pins. And I thought, oh man, though, if you put a cable in there, there's some real chance that thing could get shorted out. There's some risks there that maybe you need to mitigate. So what Patrick's talking about, I think, is frankly genius. That's smart. So
yeah, it'll be inert until you press the power button, and that's after the power cable is completely inserted. And the reason we're going with an OEM cable instead of making our cable is to ensure that all those contacts are secured and not exposed in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, no, I like it. So that's smart. So if you want to know how to do it right, this is going to be. So Patrick, you're going to have to get this video done.
Yeah, no kidding.
So for those that need to watch it, I like this because we're not talking just a cut the end off, put ring terminals on the cable type hack. This one you do have to deal with the pins, which is really telling the CAN bus to turn that on or off. And by doing it the way he's talking about it, even from my backwoods solar mentality, makes a lot of sense because it's a much better way to do it.
And then also, since I couldn't get that 5-meter cable, the fact that we're going to be using a project box and putting an Anderson on it means that I can just make my cable length to whatever I want from the Anderson side.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. You could go whatever distance
Yep.
you want to go. And since it's Anderson, you could even buy them with Anderson connectors already on them too, if you wanted to go that route.
Yeah. So I think it'll work out pretty well. We just got to get to it and make it happen.
Yeah. So in essence, you're building a hack box that
I'm building like my own Hub D1 for an eco.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you're doing, and that's brilliant. The beautiful part about that is that you could go from the other end of that box to a bus bar. See where I'm going with this? And then you could run multiple batteries to that bus bar, parallel the whole damn thing together. And,
yeah, you can really rip the system wide open. Once you have direct battery access, you can do anything with it. You just have to be smart, because now you're dealing with direct battery access, so there's more danger there.
Yeah. So that's awesome. No, I think that's a fantastic way of going about it, rather than just trying to connect some wires together.
This is another mad science experiment I'm about to try. I just got this delivered. I have 2 power supplies that I've been recently using to do my labs for the videos, so that way I can do the videos faster, because I can do them indoors and not have to wait for good sun and good solar. And unfortunately for that video on the D1 build, the one that Jasonoid beat me to, it's because I was waiting on a day where I got 50 amps of solar.
That's the Blue Eddy one?
Yeah. So what I'm planning on doing, I don't know if this is going to work, but I think it will. I'm going to take my 2 30 amp power supplies and wire them together in parallel using this, so I can create a 60 amp power supply that I can simulate up to 60 amps of solar from.
Yeah, well, that'd be awesome.
So I think that'll work, and that'll be a little video too, a little tinkering video. But that'd make all the other future videos so much easier. I won't have to go outside anymore. I just stage everything inside.
Right. Well, and it's funny because I've done that with batteries, because, well, for one, all my solar is up at the cabin except for my portable stuff. Though I do have a call with Signature Solar on Tuesday, and I am looking at buying 10 panels. It's because they've all done this, right? It used to be you could get 1 or 2 panels and have them shipped. I've got at my cabin, I run a 24-volt well pump by SureFlow that is controlled by an MPPT solar pump controller, and fed by 190 watt panel, which is 24-volt nominal panel. And I was able to order that panel by itself from Sunelec down in Arizona and have it shipped up to me, no problem. And even A1 Solar, I was going to go through A1 Solar recently because they were doing that, and then they canceled it, and now they're only doing 10 panels, just like Signature Solar. Now you can buy 1 or 2 if you're close to them, but I'm not close to anybody.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at buying 10, and they just had a sale. I should have just done it right then. They had a sale on, I think they were 390 watt bifacial panels at like $95 a piece.
That's about what my good deal at. And I wish I had bought 2 pallets at that time, but this is when I was just messing with the power stations, and I could use 2 panels out of 37.
Right.
So I already figured I was going to use 10 of them and maybe even just resell the other 27.
Right.
Now that we're going to use the roof, I need another 20 panels, and I can't buy the same panel anymore.
Right. Well, that is one of the biggest. In fact, folks, that's something I'm going to tell you right now. If you're buying solar panels, buy more than you think you need. If you could do it. And here's why. I said earlier that when I put my 60 amp charge controller in, it was because I envisioned putting more panels in on that same array, right? So I had the 3 205 watt panels, 18.54 volts each, and I put them in series, and I was going to get 3 more, put them in series, and then parallel the 2 strings, and then maybe even do it again. So that was my plan. All along was my plan to do that. And when I went to buy more of those panels, they were no longer available. And it wasn't but maybe a year later. And I ended up dragging my feet, thinking I'd eventually find them. And about 5 years after getting those panels, I bought 305 watt panels because I could not buy those. And so I've got that Midnight Solar combiner box that can parallel 6 strings, and I've got 1 string running into it. And I'm actually thinking of pulling that combiner box out and running a single disconnect, because there's just no reason to run that.
unless you
It's
want to like SPD and some other stuff in that
yeah,
combiner
it
box.
just, you know, but then I've got another one. When I put the one on the roof, I when I bought that combiner box, I think it could do up to 4 you know, panels or series of panels, and I did run 3 separate. I have a 2S 3P configuration, so I've got 2 panels in series and then 3 of those sets of panels paralleled in that box. So I am using one combiner box correctly, if you will, but one of them is literally just a breaker.
Yeah,
One breaker, because you can't, because if you buy panels, the chances are, if you buy like 500-watt bifacial panels today, tomorrow they'll all be 800 watts. And I actually have seen 800-watt bifacial panels out there now. They're massive, but I have seen them.
I wouldn't touch it. You couldn't pay me to put one of those up.
Yeah, they're also like, 5 feet by 9 or
nearly
something.
killed myself putting the 6 of the 420-watt panels up on the back patio roof.
Yeah, they're getting crazy. But the thing is if you're going to buy panels, my point is just that they change so often that if your mind is like mine was, where I'm going to get 3, but I'll probably get 3 or 6 more down the road, don't do that. Just buy
more
10
than
right now or whatever. Yeah. Buy more than you need. It's not going to hurt you to use them.
And you might add them on later, or you might need a replacement for a broken panel.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do. So that's why I'm looking now, and I don't need 10 panels right now, though I've been thinking of replacing the 3 at the cabin that are my 205-watt panels. And I was thinking of replacing those 3 with 2 that are maybe 400 watts, maybe bifacial panels, and just, upping that smaller array a little bit more, maybe 3. But the problem is, 400-watt panels are about twice the size of a 200-watt panel. So I have to look at the physical dimensions. But even 2, bifacial panels, even with some shading on the back because of the rack itself, they're going to create more power and maybe catch some good reflection off the snow in the wintertime and get more that way too. So, I'm looking at that going, well, okay, I do need some for the shop. I mean, about 3 would be good. But I'm looking at that going, to heck with it. Maybe just get 10.
I would
cover them with cover them with a blanket, put them in the shop, and use what you need. And eventually, I'll use them all.
And we didn't talk about it in this segment. I don't know if we want to go this direction, but this is also the time to buy. We still have our 30% solar tax credit right now.
Yeah, and I mean, that's going to end soon. The other thing I will tell you too is right now, China's been doing some things that aren't very nice. Honestly, I think they've been doing things that aren't very nice for a very long time. And so I saw that they put a new 100% tariff or something on their stuff. So whether or not, because that those tariffs don't necessarily impact everything, and we haven't seen any major impact yet. A little bit, but not much.
Yeah, it depends on certain items. Some stuff has gone up dramatically, and some stuff's been basically unaffected.
Yeah. So, but in my mind, I mean, if that 30% tax credit helps, hey, why not? Now's a good time to do it. If you're worried about inflation, which, I mean, I don't know if you've seen, gold is over 4,000 an ounce and silver's over 50. And I've been telling people that's going to happen for probably 20 years.
Yeah.
It's not there's an old expression. I learned this around 90. Oh boy, folks, hold on a second here. Let me go back into the cobwebs a minute. 90, I'm going to say 93 or 94, somewhere back then. I'm probably 93, probably late 93. Back in the days of the old 486 computers. Anybody else around old enough to remember the old 486?
I know
I've been around longer than that.
Yeah.
But so there were single speed CD-ROMs out in those days. And there was a lot of talk about a double speed CD-ROM coming out. And there was an article I read that the guy essentially said, if you just wait, then it's the same as sitting on the fence. And what he said was, if you sit on the fence, the only thing you're going to get is splinters up your butt. And you'll still be sitting on the fence. In other words, if you're waiting for prices to come down or something better to come out, but you want that thing or need that thing, just go get it now. Yeah. Otherwise, you're still going to be waiting.
Especially with solar, though, because solar is all about a slow burn return on investment. The sooner you get your solar setup started, the sooner you start returning your investment to yourself.
True, true. And I just saw Dane's post here, although I got to get to another one. Greenhouse or pergola quickly comes to my exactly. I've actually thought about a something to shade the chickens in the summertime. Solar panels.
I love that. I love that solar
Heath.
carport that Will Prowse has. I wish I could
Yeah,
get that, but the HOA
I'm
would
planning
never let
on
me.
building a carport for my lawnmower. But let's see. Thanks for the info, guys. I've got a suspicious looking raccoon eyeballing, and then it stops. Did the raccoon attack you?
Raccoons are vicious.
I'm heading in the van now to crash. Looking forward to your next uploads. All right, buddy. Have a good night. I saw that eyeballing and then it kind of trailed off. And it's like, did you get attacked by a raccoon? Oh, God. I put 3 SunTech 280-watt panels on top of my 10, I'm guessing 10-foot shed, but I did receive 2 extra. They were new. Got all 5 for free, but I noticed the larger panels have lower max volt. Yeah, well, usually their voltage isn't lower, their amperage is usually lower. But let's do this. Let's go play a game here, folks. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can. Oh, I'm going to the wrong place. Let me go to the right place here. I have a habit of going to Signature Solar, like just, or not Signature Solar. See, my brain is not working. Just Sunelec. And because I used Sunelec for so long, folks, that it's crazy, right? So I mean, I bought stuff off them way back when. So let's go have a look and see what they got here. So 460 watts. Sorry about that. I need to bump my mic. 460 watts, $170. I'm just going to go look at them. We've got bifacial panels and a voltage. Look at that voltage right there, buddy.
Yeah,
50.8, right? So I'm going to be honest with you. I'd be surprised if I see any lower than that. And the reason is because for a 48 volt nominal system, 51.2 volts, and I know Patrick's going to say that's nominal now, but in the old world there was 12, 24, and 48. That was it.
Yes, there was.
So a 51.2 volt battery charges at about 58.8 volts, right around there, 58.4, something like that. And the thing is, that means that your solar array needs to be coming in more like 70 volts, and there's an actual efficiency spread. So you may find that that your controllers will tell you where they're most efficient. Usually they're going to say, like, for a 48 volt system at 64 point whatever or 69 point this many volts is where we're most efficient. That's because they have to convert that power from whatever that incoming voltage of your solar array is to the correct charging voltage for your batteries. And there's a very narrow window where they're really, really efficient.
I got a side banter for that too. We were
Okay.
talking about Victron earlier. That's one thing that I noticed. Victron is very different than most of the others. Their MPPTs require only a couple of volts more than your charging voltage versus many others that require 10, 15 volts more before they start becoming efficient.
Right. Yeah. So here's another one, 37.42 volts. Let's see what their best price is today. And I have no affiliation with these guys right now, folks. So if for anybody who's like, yeah, but you're just selling, I have nothing to do with them. We don't have a deal. I might end up with one of these days. I've been offered, actually. I have been offered. I'll full disclosure, I have been offered. But I just did, at the time, I didn't have a reason to do it. So these are pallets. So your best price is always going to be pallets. Let me see if I can find. Let's go this way. Let's see if we can. Or no, I don't want pallets. Let's go individual panels because that's the easiest way to go. And then best price. And if it goes back to pallets, I'm going to be ticked off.
Some good news for anyone that might be stuck with old and new panels and you cannot find your original panel anymore. You can mismatch panels if you know how to do it and actually lose very little. So as I said earlier, I couldn't get another pallet of the panels I bought originally, and from Signature Solar I bought some Philadelphia solar panels. I'm going to be wiring them to a separate MPPT so they don't mix. But if I had to, I did the math. I'd only lose 1.2% by mixing.
Yeah, if they're fairly close. I mean, there are some things where people say you definitely need to fuse them, and some argue that there are some risks to it. I've done some really different panels and shown that it can be done. But anyway, here's the one that they had at 90 some odd dollars. It's 113 now, and those are 48.5. So I think what you're seeing is your amperage is often lower. Like, for example, my 18.54 volt panels, they're 11.27 amps, and they're really small. They're like maybe 3 feet by 5 feet panels. This guy here is like 8 feet by by 3.5 feet wide. So that's not bad, actually. Like, I could probably put 3 of these on that rack, which would give me, what's that? That's over 1170 watts. That'd be sweet. So that's what I was looking at, thinking, wow, something like this, good price. I don't know. I think are these mono or bifacial? Let's see what they are. Mono. These are monos, and I don't have a problem with using mono panels myself personally. So, all right, let's go back here and turn that off. Bingo. There we go. All right, let's see what else we got here. Heath was leaving. Dane MMX chipset came out with the 486. Hey, buddy, my first programming was in Fortran on a 4044 in 1979. Give away my age a little bit there. Saw where you live. Hello from Indiana. Saw where who lives? Me or Patrick? I pretty much told everybody where I live, so I mean, you should know.
It's not hard to hunt me down. I'm all over the place. I'm a licensed ham operator, so that has to be public record.
So you're a real geek.
Yeah.
I just said I programmed with Fortran on a 4044 back in 79. Pure definition of geek. Oh, and I also played Dungeons and Dragons too, by the way.
I was just hanging out with the Races guys the other day. I'm heavily involved in emergency management here for this county. So I was just hanging out with the Races guys the other day, helping them out with their stuff, getting them a whole new setup. So they're the volunteers that handle the ham radios during those natural disasters.
Yeah, I've worked with the disaster groups because I was a manager in the phone company, and you got to keep 911 going. And I've worked some big disasters actually. So
I got to drive the fire trucks during we had the highway shut down, and I got to go as fast as I wanted in one of the fire chief vehicles.
Nice.
It was fun.
All right, folks, we've gone almost 2.5 hours. I'm probably dinner time out here on the West Coast. So any last questions? I'm going to give you one more chance. Excuse me, to throw some questions out before we get going. Oh, come on, Dane. I'm PC DOS. I'm pre-PC DOS. Come on, buddy. You're as old as I am. So, but I think I started a little bit before you. I started on punch cards. It was an IBM 4044 in 79. I'm gonna geek out here right now. You guys ready for true geekiness? So programming using the punch cards, I programmed the computer to count using the Fibonacci number sequence, which is basically you go 0, 1, 1, 2, and you go 0 and 1 are the first two characters. So 0 plus 1 is 1, and 1 plus 1 is 2, and 2 plus 1 is 3, and 3 plus 2 is 5. And that's how you count using Fibonacci number sequence. And it was all to see how big of a prime number that computer could give me. So yeah, I was a geek.
I love being a geek. When I was a kid in school, everyone picked on us, but now we're taking over the world, man.
An AS400? What the hell? Really?
Yeah, that's. I didn't have. I wasn't there in the 70s, but I was still dealing with archaic technology. You'd be surprised how much we still have running around in the old Enterprise.
Oh, sure. I noticed that my light got too bright, and it made me look like I was a cyborg a minute ago. Let's see. Look at that. See that? Yeah. My cyborg showing through. All right, folks. Any last questions? One last chance here before I drop off. And I want to while we wait and see if anybody has anything else. So Patrick, thank you for joining me tonight. Great fun. This is the most you and I have ever talked. We've only talked through chat once, or not chat, but through comments actually prior to this. But we did talk one other time, and I keep thinking I remember talking with you about something. I just can't remember, but we did once before, and I can't remember now why. But it was the profile view that your camera shows that reminded me of that.
Oh,
and I was like, we've talked before.
Yeah.
But
people have no idea what's in front of me, probably unless they go to my channel, but I have 2 giant monitors, so there's a whole wall of computer here. There's nowhere to put a camera in front of me.
Right. Oh, we got one last question. Okay, last question. Can I put 2 more Redodio 12.8 100 amp hour batteries in parallel onto my bus bar to make? Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, there's pretty much no logical restriction to paralleling your batteries.
I mean, Redodio will tell you probably a max of 4S 4P, meaning that 4 in series and 4 in parallel. That's usually what a lot of these companies say, though I would argue that with an active balancer, you should be able to do as many as you want.
And then usually when I see a limitation on how many batteries are in parallel, it's a smart battery that has BMS with communication. And it has dip switch positions 1, 2, 3, 4.
But they actually do it even with ones that don't.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I've noticed that,
Right.
like with the eco-worthy batteries, the old model says up to 8, and the new one says up to 32, and it's just because they have more dip switch positions.
Yeah. So the funny thing is like I want to say my Vector's server rack batteries are like 16, and a lot of them show 16 now. So, but anyway, so. Thanks for joining, Patrick. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully everybody got something out of it tonight and enjoyed it. But I think it's time to get ready for dinner and to return the phone call that I just had. So usually I try to turn my phone off, but this is not my usual time to do lives. And if you like this time, folks, let me know, because I always used to do them around 5:30 because that seemed to work for a lot of people. So if you like this earlier time during the day, let me know. And if you haven't checked out Patrick's channels, it's Vicious Computers. I think isn't it at ViciousXUSMC?
Yeah, I think that's the actual YouTube tag. I'll go grab it and put it in chat real quick.
Yeah, check him out. If you want to get into the more nitty-gritty engineering side of things, he's the guy. And I'm just a guy who goes out into the woods and tries to figure out how to make things work.
Yeah.
So here you go.
Things we talked about today would be like mixing solar panels. I'll cover that in the Solar 101 series. And of course, we got the EcoFlow hacks coming up, and there's a bunch of information interlaced in there if you guys go take a look. So I appreciate it.
All right, guys. I think we're going to call it a night. You all have a great night, and thanks for being here. It was fun. We'll do it again.
Thanks for having me.
Hang on, Patrick.